and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Adam, your night with Beards and Brisco, if you won the prize that the three of you just get to hang out and do what?
Wow.
Yeah, so many possibilities. So much.
How about we? Can't somebody else win this prize? Why do I have to win this prize?
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, a Tuesday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco and Drake heading up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you a lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. A lot of football on the docket coming up an hour from now, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. You just have to tune in and see when Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Charles Omenihu and Jerick McKinnon will be at the podium today after practice is over. The penultimate practice of the ramp-up period for the Chiefs in training camp. The final day of the ramp-up will be tomorrow. They will have Thursday off, as required by the CBA. After 5 days of practices, you must have a day off after the ramp-up period, and then pads can come on. So the first day, pads can come on, and we'll see what Andy Reid has planned and everything. But the first day that they can put some more pads on. They can do like shells and stuff over the next couple of days. It slowly ramps up like, oh, just jerseys, then jersey and helmet. Then you can wear like the shells with the small little shoulder pads and helmet, and then a day off, and then pads. So we'll see when the Chiefs will start, and 2 days can start on Friday as well. So we'll see when the Chiefs will start with the full padded practices and all of that stuff. But that'll be on Friday after the off day on Thursday. So just a couple of more practices of the ramp-up period. Then you'll see live 11 on 11 and things like that as the training camp will continue to progress. Because the 7-on-7s, the no pads on, can be a little bit easier for maybe the offense. The quarterback can hold the ball for a while. The offensive lineman may be a little bit easier to block. Like a couple of the throws that we saw from Patrick Mahomes in the individual videos are like, he had the ball a while, which he does. Sure. He's able to do that. He's able to extend plays, so some of those could have happened in an actual game, but it doesn't mean he would have extended plays and just slowly taking steps to his left and still surveying and looking and then finding Rashee Rice in the corner with Trent McDuffie on him, the one that was Rashee Rice running from left to right on your radio dial and on your TV or iPad or whatever device you're using. That one, Mahomes held the ball a little bit long, but when they get into 11 on 11 and things like that, yes, he will not be touched, but the play will be blown dead. That's a sack. Sack. Run it again. I don't know if that's the case. If there's any yelling, I will always miss Charlie Weiss in his scooter.
Oh, man,
what in his rascal when he had the knee surgery.
He sure was a rascal.
When they were running plays, and he would slowly ride the rascal to midfield to call the play. In the huddle calling the play. Rascal turns around, back to the sideline. Play runs. Rides the rascal out the mid. It was just brilliant. I want Andy Reid to do that. I want Andy Reid or Matt Nagy to get on a rascal and just ride it to and from the huddle.
Those are the good old days, man. I know people are enjoying all these Super Bowls and playoff wins and all of that.
Wasn't that fun, though?
I mean, that was a blast.
Come on. We were able to laugh at them, not at other teams that we're doing now.
Hey, that's Scott Pioli over there. He won a ring with a different team. But
that was GM of the year.
That guy, he's pretty good.
Belichick and Brady. That guy, I'll tell you what,
this
man.
Should work.
This is, I thought it was. It didn't.
Who's that dirty man over there who hasn't showered in 6 weeks? That's the head coach?
Todd Haley.
Oh, wow.
Showerings for...
This'll work. This'll be fine.
I can find 53 men off the street that can shower.
Is that Lance Long?
Very short.
Not very big. Don't know if I could win with 53 Lance Longs.
I'll take 53 Lance Longs. He doesn't shower either. If he did, it'd be the greatest damn shower you ever saw. He'd work his ass off in that shower.
You know how long you'd be in the shower for?
Longer than everybody else.
Not very long.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
5'11", 185 Lance Long officially on Pro Football Reference. Don't think you would win with 53 Lance Longs. I'm going to be honest.
I don't think so either.
I'm going to go ahead and call it.
You'd be a fast team. You'd be the fastest team in the NFL. Smallest. You wouldn't have time to throw very often.
How many years do you think Lance Long played in the NFL real quick? The living legend, Lance Long.
8 games.
Exactly 8 games.
No way.
1 with the Cardinals, 7 with the Chiefs. 1 target, no catch in Arizona. 8 games.
Just a guess.
Nailed it. No, hold on. Actually, you know what? Let me check and see if he played any playoff. No, never mind.
Oh, darn it. Well, you had to check.
I had to check. I couldn't remember the 2009 Chiefs.
Or the Lions 1 game.
Whew. Cardinals.
Still technically a long career.
Boo.
Yeah. All
If
right,
I would have made the joke, I would have loved it. But
that's how the show's going to go the rest of the day today until 2 o'clock. Again, Chiefs press conferences, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Charles Omenihu, and Jerick McKinnon at the podium. We will talk with Jeff Montgomery, Monty, Royals Hall of Famer, Bally Sports. We'll talk with him coming up at noon and talk a little Royals. Next time we talk with Monty, the trade deadline will have passed. So curious his thoughts and as a player, what you do this week. Like, are you reading it? Are you hearing it? Are you and your wife or significant other planning on, finding? Are you looking at like hotels, or are you looking at some apartments in different cities that you may be traded to? Are you going through that? Does it affect you on the field? Like, was Scott Barlow thinking about being traded when he was, struggling? He got the save last night, and while it may have been a little more nip-tuck, the 2 hits he gave up was a slow roller up the middle and then a little flare into left center. Those happen. They don't happen if you strike guys out, but those happen.
which is hard to do when the strike zone's missing a corner. But I'm nitpicking.
Robo-umps, everybody. Hey, robo-umps, because you really love, could have used the robo-umps on the Brady Singer Saturday start there in Yankee Stadium.
Yep.
Which I love the Giancarlo Stanton at bat when Michael Kay and the Yankees broadcasters felt like the strike that was called on the outside part of the plate that was absolutely a strike. It was in the zone. It was just that Salvi reached back over because he was set up on the inside. Oh, that was out. That was clearly outside. That was outside. That changed the entire at bat. I tweeted that out, and then my brother sent me a tweet of Gary Sheffield complaining about the same thing, saying that was clearly a strike. Why are they complaining about that? Yeah, it changed the at bat for Giancarlo Stanton because he didn't walk, because he took a strike. Like, thank you, Gary Sheffield. All right, great, appreciate it. Could have used better strikes on maybe some robo-umps. We'll talk with Jeff Montgomery about those things, and then Todd Liebel will join us at some point in the 1 o'clock hour. I don't know. Depends on
From
how fast,
somewhere at some time.
depends on how fast he can drive. But we'll connect with Todd Liebel. We'll catch up with him at some point. 913-912-4810. Also, John Sherman's open letter to Royals fans. We will we'll read that here from John Sherman, or you'll hear his words through my voice of John Sherman. You could also read it yourself if you feel like doing it.
Will you do a John Sherman impression for us?
Yeah.
For a whole 2-page letter?
Yeah, I've been really working on it. I'll do it in Denny Matthews' voice. Last Monday night, I pulled into the K for our game against the Tigers.
If you could just wander away from the microphone a little bit now also.
Watched fans excitedly picking up their Bo Jackson bobbleheads. Man came over to me in the parking lot, and I said, "Gun." It was a parking spot, actually.
It came over to him where?
I was easy to spot, and he was easy to park. And parking spotted. Brand new fancy KCI. So I won't do that, but
okay,
we'll hear the
that was good
opener
enough for me.
From John Sherman.
Hey, fun fact. You know when Lance Long was born? May the 4th.
Be with you.
May the 4th be with you, Lance Long.
And also with you.
Now I'm closing his Pro Football Reference page.
Great. All right, 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show. Let's get into the conversation today. Let's talk some Chiefs football. What's going on in St. Joseph, Missouri? St. Joe's, as they called it in Ozark, which nobody calls it that.
Patrick Mahomes does.
Does he?
He actually does.
Oh,
I wonder if that's
Joe.
because I haven't seen
St.
Ozark.
Joe's.
He kind of calls it St. Joe's.
maybe that's because he's just a fan of Joe's.
Maybe.
That's what it is. He thinks they are saint-worthy.
He's right.
St. Joe's. I do want to start with Chris Jones. Mainly because I haven't weighed in on it yet.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if anybody's talked about it yesterday at all.
Oh, man, 10-2 yesterday was an absolute barn burner.
Yeah.
Are you not here?
I'm just assuming that nobody has mentioned it, so I'd like to get into the conversation because people are just ignoring this.
4 hours of Royals trade talk. Just should they move Salvi? Should they not? We opened up the phones yesterday. It was.
It's amazing. That's awesome. I just don't know that we need to move downtown. I'm worried about the parking.
4 hours.
Why can't they just renovate? I've got so many memories at Kauffman Stadium. That's why I go out there. When's the last time you going out there? 2016, but I go out there for the nostalgia.
So what are the Chiefs doing?
So I want to talk about it from this perspective. The perspective of who gets to the breaking point first. So we know the report far apart from Adam Schefter. We know that came from Chris Jones' camp, that they are, quote, far apart. We know the Chiefs were hopeful in getting something done with Chris Jones before training camp started. In fact, let's hear from Brett Veach. This was at the ring ceremony 5 weeks ago. Mid-June is when the ring ceremony took place. We know Chris Jones was not there. He said he wasn't feeling well. Certainly seemed like everybody that was talking before the ring ceremony expected Chris Jones to be there, or it was a collective effort like the running back Zoom, getting together and saying, hey, if anybody asks, we expect Chris Jones to be there. We don't even have to worry. Oh, I don't know. Is he going to be here or not? I don't know. Well, why would you not think he's going to be here? He's going to be here. We expect him to be here. Whatever. Here's Brett Veach at the ring ceremony when asked by our very own Todd Lebo about the latest in the Chris Jones conversation.
We're in constant communication. I'd be shocked if Chris isn't here. I mean, this is his type of party right here. So, but we have great communication. And look, there's a lot of time before camp. So, feel good about where we're going to be with Chris, and we'll get to celebrate tonight and have a good time, and then break tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll have great dialogue from now to the start of training camp, and look forward to Chris being here and not just for next year but for a long time.
Do you have a timeline in your head where you feel comfortable getting stuff done?
No, not really. Listen, we have a long history together, and we have a great relationship with his agent, so. These things usually get worked out right during the first start of camp. So we anticipate the same, and we'll see how it goes.
That part stands out now. It didn't stand out the first time I heard it because training camp wasn't going to even report for another, month or so. And the expectation was, hey, waiting on Quinnen Williams, and we'll see when the Quinnen Williams deal is done, and they'll find some sort of a middle ground. He wants to be the second highest paid defensive tackle in the league. Where's that at? Is it 27? Is it 28? Is it up to 30? Which we'll get into here in a second. There's plenty of time. But when you hear Brett Veach there say, well, we got a lot of time. We're in constant communication, good relationship with his representatives. And, these things typically get done right before camp or right during the beginning part of camp. Not saying, well, we'll get this thing done before camp. These things typically get done right before camp or right during the beginning part of camp. Well, it's still the build-up and the acclimation period for the Chiefs. Again, as I said, they haven't put on the real pads yet in training camp. August 13th is the first preseason game. Seems like a really long way away. When it gets here, it'll feel like it just flew by, but it's about 3 weeks away from now. A lot can be done even if you go at a snail's pace to inch closer and closer to some sort of a middle ground or somebody giving in. Their line in the sand gets washed away a little bit. And it's less of a clear and stark line. It becomes a little blurry. So the 13th is a ways away. And just as a fining side note, if Chris Jones were to sit out all the way until the first game of the season and then report, he would forfeit roughly $2.25 million. Because training camp technically from the CBA counts from reporting date until the Sunday before the first game of the season. So the Sunday before Labor Day. So even when the Chiefs break training camp and head back to Kansas City and practice, the NFL still considers that training camp. He would still be fined $50,000 a day until the Sunday before training camp. Now, if he doesn't report then, now you're giving up game checks. So that's different. So he could give up roughly $2.25 million if he misses every single day until the first game of the season. That might be worth it for him to get an extra $5 or $6 million in guaranteed dollars in the first 3 years or something like that. But what does far apart mean? Because I know this. Well, I'm expecting this to be reality. In that before Chris Jones missed camp, or even the last couple of weeks before Chris Jones missed camp and didn't show on Saturday, both sides knew where the other side stood. The Chiefs knew exactly what Chris Jones and his camp was asking for, and Chris Jones and his camp knew exactly what the Chiefs were offering and what they had said, quote, they were willing to go, or how high they would be willing to go. Now, you don't always want to put that out there of, hey, we're offering you 27. We'll go up to 29. Well, then give them 29. Well, we would be willing to go, but we'd love to work somewhere in the middle. Like, you're not going to show all of your cards. Hey, we're working at 27 right now, 27, or whatever the 3-year money is going to be, or what the guaranteed dollars, or the practical guaranteed dollars, whatever the hold up and the hang up, whatever the far apart means, the Chiefs aren't going to let them know how high they can get, and Chris Jones and his camp won't let the Chiefs know how far back they may come ultimately, maybe before the first preseason game. Maybe he gives in then. But both sides know where the other side stands. My read on the DeAndre Hopkins deal was that, well, it feels like the Chris Jones deal is at least done, a parameter, so they know what they could offer DeAndre Hopkins. I didn't acknowledge the flip side because I didn't think we'd get here. Flip side of that would be the Chiefs weren't close and told DeAndre Hopkins, we ain't get this thing done anytime soon. So we can't offer you anything before training camp at least, and maybe even a week or two into training camp because we got a ways to go before we get to some sort of an agreement. And Hopkins says, cool, all right, I'm going to Tennessee. Hey, do what you got to do. Understandable. We're stuck at the spot we are right now. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you at this number. We're not going to be able to get there because we don't have anything done with Chris Jones right now. That's the flip side of DeAndre Hopkins agreeing to the Titans when he did, of saying, well, wouldn't he wait for the Chiefs to get done with Chris Jones? Well, both sides, either side could have been true. And we know it's the latter now. Soren Petro said yesterday that he had heard Chris Jones' camp is asking for a, quote, impressive number. Nate Taylor reported he's asking for $30 million per year. The devil is in the details of $30 million per year. We know that with NFL contracts. What does the $30 million mean? Is it $30 million, 3-year extension, and it's going to be guaranteed? Is it practical guaranteed of $90 to $95 million, whatever it might be? Is it Aaron Donald exact money? Is it just below $10,000 below Aaron Donald money? But the question I have is, who reaches their breaking point first? The Chiefs or Chris Jones? Let's hear from Jeremy Fowler weighing in on what he says about why the Chiefs and Jones are not close right now.
Well, the holdup is the market. Defensive tackle Aaron Donald makes $30+ million a year. Well, Chris Jones believes he belongs closer to that conversation than the other defensive tackles that make more like the low to mid 20 millions per year. So Chiefs have to bridge that gap. I've been told from a source over there they've prioritized doing Jones's deal for a while now. They had hoped to get it done around training camp or through the first couple days after. Hasn't happened yet, but they're going to stick with it. They haven't tried to trade him or anything like that because he's in their plans. They just have to bridge that gap of a couple $1 million or whatever it is, and they're just going to chip away at it, but it could take some time because that is a massive number that the Chiefs would have to wrap their head around.
They've had to wrap their head around it for a while. And if they were hopeful that something would get done before training camp or something would get done the first couple of days at training camp, to me, they were hopeful because they felt like deadlines would spur action. And what it feels like has happened, if I'm trying to read the tea leaves, if that report from Jeremy Fowler is true, that the Chiefs were hopeful something would, this is just like a week ago, Chiefs were hopeful something would get done before training camp or the first couple of days of training camp. There is no plan to trade him. He is in their plans for the future. They thought they would come to some sort of an agreement there. And if that's the case, Chris Jones is not budging as much as maybe the Chiefs felt he would. when the deadline was approaching for training camp. So who reaches their breaking point first? Let's talk about that on the other side of the break. More Zone rolling along on this Tuesday edition of the show. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Football season's here, not just talking about it, and yeah, training camp's going on, but we're still so far away from real games. It's probably way too early to start playing fantasy football, right? Wrong! Let me tell you about Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy football and the only way that I have already started playing fantasy football this, football season. I'm calling it now, and they're hosting the biggest fantasy football tournament of all time right now, Best Ball Mania 4. I've already hopped in with a couple of entries. You can too, to try to get your share of $15 million in total prizes, $3 million to first place. It's just a really easy, fun app to use. You can get the Underdog Fantasy app in your app store, or you can sign up at underdogfantasy.com. But you're going to be able to go through. You want to do these best ball drafts. You can draft your whole team, set it, and forget it. That's the most fun part of fantasy football without all of the injuries and substitutions. Underdog does all of that for you to make sure you always have the best score each week. I think it's a blast. I think you're going to love it too. Plus, I can even get you a good deal if you sign up right now. I can just give you my name. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com or via the App Store with promo code Brisco, Brisco, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Brisco, Brisco. Must be 18 or over and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Hey, KC, it's the lawman from Jungle Law. If you have a pending deed...
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Drake, heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll hear from the Chiefs whenever practice is over, whether that's right before 11 o'clock, or after. We'll see. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Charles Omenihu, and Jerick McKinnon will be at the podium today. Fun one. Loved Steve Spagnuolo yesterday.
Oh,
is it
so
noon?
good to have him back.
Is it morning? Is it afternoon? Oh, mid-season form. Good morning. Good afternoon. I don't know what time it is.
Well, it's going to be mad. I got a sunburn on my forehead.
Not sure. But we're here again. 913-912-4810. Text says, people keep saying he'll recoup the money that he's fined. You don't get back the money you lose each day unless the team says keep it. With the new CBA, like it's been talked about, the new CBA, $50,000 fine each day. It's mandatory. Teams cannot waive that. But recouping that money would be if he holds out for, let's say, the entire preseason up until the first game against Detroit, and he is fined $2.25 million, but he gets $6 million more than he would have got if he signed before training camp, then he just got plus $4 million.
He'd be recouping it, but the team can't forgive those now under this CBA.
Yeah, that would be the way that he gets it back. So in his mind, every day he's missing, if he's closer to getting the more millions of dollars, like, okay, if I miss 10 days and I give up $500,000, but I'm going to get $3 million more, okay. And I'm a veteran. I know what it's going to take during training camp. I know what to expect. I've been there before. Justin Reed yesterday. Now I know what to expect. I've been through the training camp before. I know what to. I've ridden the bicycle. Okay, I know what to expect the next time I get on the bicycle. Don't know what you don't know. So the question is, who gets to the breaking point first? Is it the Chiefs or is it Chris Jones? I actually think it's the Chiefs. And I know typically, almost every time I would say the player, almost every time, when the CBA happens and a collective league, the owners versus the players, it's the players that will get to the breaking point first because they are looking at everybody. It's not one individual. And there's a few reasons. And we can expand on these reasons, but it's about 4/5 reasons I came up with. One, he's the defense, and he and his representatives are aware that he's the defense. So whether Aaron Donald is an outlier with the market or not, that's the market. Christian Kirk was an outlier in the market, but it changed the way that people did the negotiations and how much money they had to pay for wide receivers. It changed how much people were going for. Should have been an outlier, but people then said, well, if Christian Kirk is getting this, then I deserve that. And if Chris Jones is saying, whoa, if Aaron Donald's getting this, then I deserve this. Well, Aaron Donald's an outlier. Yes, so am I. I'm an outlier too. Because if Quinnen Williams is the right now second highest paid defensive tackle, yeah, we ain't the same. We're not the same. And Jeffrey Simmons and I ain't the same. And Payne and I ain't the same. And Hargrave and on and on and on and on. It's Aaron Donald, it's me, and there is a gap. It's not Aaron Donald, gap me, gap everybody else. It's Aaron Donald, me, and some could even argue
last year Chris Jones was more available and better than Aaron Donald.
Absolutely.
Last year, in fact.
Absolutely. But after Chris Jones, whether you put him at 1A, let's just say after Chris Jones and Aaron Donald.
Yep.
There is a gap between there. So to expect it to be, well, Quinnen Williams gets this, then you get 25, we've talked about it. That was never going to be the case. Are they going to get halfway, which would be roughly 28, 27, 28, something like that to get halfway there? He's the defense. The Chiefs know he's the defense. Chiefs players know he's the defense. His representatives know he's the defense. That's one of the reasons. Two, this team has Super Bowl aspirations right now. Windows wide open. They've got a team to win it right now. They've still got Kelsey playing at a high level. What's he going to look like next year? I don't know. What's the offensive line going to look like next year? I don't know. We know what this team looks like right now. And it is different if Chris Jones is on the field or not on the field. I can't even tell you the name right now because I didn't write it down as to who was running with the ones yesterday next to Derek Nottie.
KU legend Daniel Wise.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's fine. I believe you. I believe you that that's who was there with the ones. Now, Turk Wharton working off on the side. Hopefully he's ready for week 1. He could fill in at that spot, but he ain't Chris Jones. They have Super Bowl aspirations right now. They're built to win right now. They traded Tyreek Hill. And this is part of one of the other reasons where if I'm Chris Jones' camp. They traded Tyreek Hill. Part of the reason to trade Tyreek Hill was to become more balanced overall, to get younger, less expensive, but to give them cap flexibility. That cap flexibility, you could say if you're the Chiefs camp or the Chris Jones camp, of saying this is the flexibility you wanted and needed because Chris Jones has earned this. If you sign Tyreek Hill, we would understand that there's no way you can do this, so we would want to trade. You traded Tyreek Hill. It can be done. We know it can be done. We know what the salary cap looks like on every single team and what next year, so on and so forth. And the other reason that I think it's Chris Jones and not the Chiefs is Chris Jones is already set for life.
Yeah.
Summer of 2020, he had made $6.2 million in his career. The last 3 years alone, he made $61.3 million. He's not struggling to eat. He can risk it and say, all right, I lost $3 million on the deal. I got fined $2.25 and I signed the same contract I would have before training camp. That sucks. But I already had almost $70 million in the bank. Le'Veon Bell didn't have that when he sat out. Saquon Barkley doesn't have that right now, so he's stuck between a rock and a hard place of saying, I've got decent money, and they're only offering me 10 with incentives to get to 11. I'm going to make more money this year. I'm going to double my career earnings this year. Or I sit out and see what happens next year. And then they can franchise tag me again next year.
Getting the franchise tag.
Yeah.
Opt-out, essentially.
So that is actual money that you would be losing.
That's right.
Because I went through the numbers in the summer of 2020 when we were talking about Chris Jones, and Chris Jones said, I may go Le'Veon Bell. I'm like, oh, let's examine Le'Veon Bell. Right. He lost money. Le'Veon Bell lost money. And I'm talking about 8 figures of money Le'Veon Bell lost by not signing that deal with the Steelers. So Saquon Barkley is in a different position than Chris Jones. Chris Jones has $70 million he's made in his career. Taxes, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. He's set for life. Not Patrick Mahomes set for life, but he's set for life if he needs to sit out and lose a couple million more dollars to try to get what he wants. And at minimum, and the worst for Chris Jones could be, not only is he set for life, he could then get 60 or 70 million more guaranteed dollars by signing whatever the Chiefs are offering right now. That's the worst case scenario for Chris Jones, is that he gets all that money that the Chiefs are offering right now. This is one of the rare, and I think might be the only one until maybe in this entire Mahomes era. Like, it would be interesting to see if the Chiefs ever get in a position like this before, where they are the ones negotiating from a position of lower ground.
I think that these are different circumstances, but like Tyrann Mathieu and Orlando Brown Jr. both had some of those moments when you ask the question, like, where is the leverage and what do these guys want? Ultimately, it was made very clear the Chiefs knew what they wanted, and they achieved that pretty quickly. It was, thank you, Tyrann, for your service. Thank you, Orlando, for your service. We have other plans. And I think you're right to say that this is an incredibly rare scenario. I would take a half step back and still think it's an incredibly rare scenario where this is a position where the superstar and the team are very equally leveraged. Even that is incredibly rare. The reason I put an extra pebble on the Chiefs side is just because they have the most punitive measure, which is, well, you're not going to get paid to do the job, and this and the other part of it that does matter, and I wonder if this is one of the reasons that Chris Jones isn't at camp right now. If the Katz brothers weren't like, Chris, come on, like, just please, just go buy a body of water for a little bit and let us work, because Chris Jones would like to be in St. Joe right now. Yeah. I know he is probably somewhere beautiful and would rather be in St. Joe.
He's in Miami, apparently.
He wants to be a part of this team. Chris Jones does not want to be a Lion. Chris Jones does not want to be a Brown. This is not, or to take it back to Miami, Chris Jones doesn't want to be a Dolphin and live in Miami. This is not about like where he wants to be anywhere more so than here. And so I do think that because of what Chris Jones is to this defense, he has a whole bucket of leverage. And I really do still believe that both sides have the same best goal, which is get a long-term deal done.
Yeah.
Frankly, even still within the barely open window of that Veach clip from the first segment of, the first couple days of camp. If you extend that to first couple days of veterans at camp, we're still kind of in that flexible space where I'm sure those conversations are very much ongoing. Chris Jones wants to be here. The Chiefs need Chris Jones here. But the Chiefs can say, you're under contract, not franchise tagged, under contract right now. So you're just going to have we're not even taking this money. $50,000 is disappearing from your bank account or from your next check or from your agents or whoever. That's just going every day, not even every practice, every single day. There is punitive financial leverage that the Chiefs have. I think Chris Jones has pretty much all of the vibes-based leverage, which is championship contender, championship culture. If Chris Jones, and this isn't true for Tyreek Hill because they took care of Patrick Mahomes, they took care of Travis Kelce, and everyone saw how the Tyreek Hill thing went down also when they traded him before the draft. So they got to take those chips right then and then cash them right in for value. That would not be the case here if they move on from Chris Jones. That money is not usable. Those draft picks in 2024 don't do a damn thing for you trying to win a Super Bowl right now.
And they'll be worse because that Chris Jones going to that team to make them better.
And while we're at it, you even look ahead to like next year and talk about franchise tags and what those paths might look like. Chris Jones at 29 years old right now, 30 years old this time next year because that's how aging works. Isn't probably write that down. I know it's tough. It's tough. He's not going to bring back the haul that Tyreek Hill brought back. I think Chris Jones is more important to this team than Tyreek Hill would have been. If I could hit a button and swap those two guys, I would keep Chris Jones.
Yes.
But I don't think the NFL would agree based on his position and his age. I think it makes all the sense for everyone to get this deal done. But so not the case with Tyreek Hill. If you're a Chiefs defender, you say, okay, so here's what I've learned. The way for me to get a big contract is to be an all-pro, potential future Hall of Famer, and then switch positions to quarterback, and then I know I'll get paid by the Chiefs. Because really, it's not an exaggeration. I've been banging the Chris Jones drum for a long time. Not an exaggeration. He was the best defensive player in the AFC last year, without much of an argument, because the guys you could argue with just on the NFC side last season. He was better than Aaron Donald, and he wants to be paid at that premium. I'm a little worried about the guaranteed money. If the lines right now are the Chiefs are at 26 per year and Jones is at 30 and there's the wiggle room and the funny money that always comes around NFL contracts, I just think they'll get it done. It might be 30 with some fake at the end. It might be 28 with every nickel of it guaranteed for the first few years. But I do worry about the guaranteed money, the practically guaranteed money, because the Chiefs will balk at a certain age cutoff that Chris Jones is already at or approaching. But he's valuable, and I think he's going to age just fine in that position to continue to be impactful even beyond his peak. But, man, it's fascinating, and I do think they're relatively equally leveraged, which is what's going to keep this a fascinating one.
The pebbles on the side of the Chiefs for me on the who breaks first, who gets to the breaking point first. I'd mention all of the reasons why I believe it's the Chiefs that are more leveraged in this, where Chris Jones has a number of things in his corner to where he can play the long game here. For the Chiefs, the number one thing is, like you talked about, we just won't pay you. Like, you're not getting paid to do a job. You're working out, doing all those things. You're not getting paid, and you're losing money right now. The other one is they could play into his love of football that, yeah, we're not going to pay you, which means you don't get to play football, which means you're not at St. Joe with your teammates, which means come Thursday Night Football against Detroit, you're not out there being a game wrecker, which means you're not getting, another ring. Now, even if he holds out, the whole, 6 games of it was like week 10, or you'd had to have 6 games. I think even when they went to 17.
Yeah, did that change to 17? I don't know.
I think it's still 6. Like, there's a difference between credited and accrued. Like, credited seasons for veterans are 3 games. Accrued seasons for, your contract, it's like at least 6 games or whatever, 6 weeks on the active roster. So in theory, he would return then. So he would still be able to play in the playoffs and everything, but you would be playing into his love of the game that the fact that he wants to be a Chief, doesn't want to be traded. The Chiefs don't want to trade him. And he's just not there.
Yeah.
And you could say, well, we can sit it out. Because we think we're going to get you for the second half of the season and the postseason anyway, which is the most important part. So we're going to sit this one out, which means you have to sit this out as well for 10 games. It's less stats, less time being around the team. You're watching the game, not playing the game. Look what missing 2 weeks for Bill Self did. I mean, Bill Self missed 2 weeks of tournament and came back and said, I don't want to retire anytime soon.
I may never leave.
I might die in that seat at Allen Fieldhouse coaching a game. It is not anywhere on, like, all of the talk was, well, Bill Self is not a lifer. He ain't going to be 70 years old coaching KU basketball. Then he misses a couple of weeks and he's like, I'm gonna retire at 92. I think 92 is what I'm looking at. It was that quick to be invigorated. Chris Jones has never been in this position before, where he's watching his team at training camp and he's not even there. He's in Miami. And the Chiefs are in St. Joe doing that. This is a different situation for Chris Jones than going through the missing the mandatory, missing the voluntary of 2020 and 2019, and then ultimately being there for training camp. This is different. So the Chiefs can play into that and say, well, how much does it hurt you? It may not hurt your pocketbook. $50,000 may not hurt you the way that it hurts, 99.9% of everybody else.
And I'll tell you what, back in that conversation about what's the message you send to the rest of your team, if that ends up coming out and there's this feeling of, no, we're going to keep lowballing Chris Jones by a few million, he loves the game too much, he'll be back. When that becomes leverage used against you in negotiations, I think you begin to see not necessarily a dynasty fall apart, but a lot of the nice things Chris Jones said about Brett Veach on the SB stage. I still think the smart money here is that it is never quite that nasty. But when as leverage becomes forced into action, things like that start getting brought into the conversation.
Text says 913-912-4810. Jones can take a hike. FU 95. 95 makes me sick. That's not a lot of different texts. That's just one particular texter
person
that is on the side of the Chiefs. Let me put it this way, and we'll take a break. Because I've heard this about, well, Patrick Mahomes did this. Travis Kelce's doing that. Well, I guess Chris Jones isn't wanting to be in line there. Did Juwan Taylor take less money to be a Chief?
No, he took a premium.
So why in the hell?
He hasn't played a game here yet, by the way.
So why in the hell would somebody expect Chris Jones, who's a big part of why there are Lombardi trophies at Arrowhead Stadium, he should take less money for everybody else, but the new guy should get every freaking dime he wants, Juwan Taylor. Yeah, let me flip that. Juwan Taylor, you want to be a Chief? You're joining us. You can take a little bit less money to be a Chief. Chris Jones, you are dominant and you make everybody else better on that defense. Juwan Taylor doesn't make everybody else better on the team. Trey Smith's going to help make Juwan Taylor better. Patrick Mahomes makes Juwan Taylor better. Andy Reid, Andy Heck, the offense makes Juwan Taylor better. Chris Jones makes the Chiefs, every player, and Steve Spagnuolo better. Why is it okay that Juwan Taylor wanted every dime, but Chris Jones is selfish and needs to take a hike and walk because he wants to get what he is worth based on the market that the Rams were willing to pay Aaron Donald, that set the market, just as Tyreek Hill wanted the money that he felt he was worth based on the market being reset by the Jags signing Christian Kirk. There's been a couple of players that have been signed that have changed a lot for the Chiefs. Christian Kirk and Aaron Donald. But I don't expect Chris Jones to take a hometown discount because Mahomes and Travis Kelce did. And also, by the way, Mahomes and all the guaranteed deals. Like, it's like, oh, you had $160 million guaranteed. He took less. He signed $500 million.
Mahomes, it's a great deal for the Chiefs. He got a decade of $500 million of certainty.
Yes.
Don't let Mike Florio fool you. I know why Patrick Mahomes signed that deal when he did. It's a good contract.
Yeah. It's a good contract for both sides.
Yes.
Travis Kelce is legit somebody that could be holding out and going, I demand more.
And I would back him happily.
And it would make sense.
Yes.
He's not doing that. He's probably the one that you go, yeah, he's the one real star that's taking $17 million for Darren Waller right now is the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
Travis Kelce could demand 24 per year. And he'd be like, makes sense.
Yeah.
24 million? Oh, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. 24 million per year? Yeah, from what he does for this team? Yeah, makes sense. He's the one that I look at and go, yeah, he's legit taking less money. But Chris Jones is deserving of it based on the market. And I say, pay that man his money. 913-912-4810. Text says, Chiefs will be fine. They've got Justin Ross.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
If you're real quiet right now, if you listen real close, point your ears up north to St. Joseph, Missouri. You hear that? Yeah. That's the sound of football, because football season's almost here, baby. And whether you love the Chiefs, the Jayhawks, the Wildcats, the Tigers, or somehow even all of the above, TicketsForLess.com is your spot for tickets with no fees. Tickets for Less already has the best selection of tickets at great, transparent prices without fees, but you can save even more by being an 810 listener. Save on your next order now when you use promo code 810. That's 810 at TicketsForLess.com. Shop around and see the difference today with my friends at Tickets for Less.
We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and we're for home sweet home.
And also, Jerick McKinnon. That is coming up in the next hour whenever they wrap up practice and head to the podium. We'll hear from them today. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Charles Omenihu, and Jerick McKinnon. 913-912-4810 is the text line. Texas, if the Chiefs could, they would eventually, or ultimately, pay Travis. But salary cap and all that stuff. That's the gist of the text. Which, yeah, I mean, if the Chiefs could, they would pay everybody if money was not an option, it was infinite. Just whatever you want. Hey, if it's monopoly money, that's great. They would do that. But it is a part of the salary cap and fitting everybody in. And Travis Kelce has made the decision to accept the contract he has and play that out over the next 3 years. Depending on what happens, the Chiefs may increase that on their own. They may just say, hey, we're going to give you a couple extra $2-3 million, rework this deal. Now you're making $16-17 million per year as a tight end over the next couple of years. They may do that, depending on where the salary cap is, where they are at, and all of those things. But the one thing I am not the one thing I am most confident in is that both the Chiefs and Chris Jones want to work something out.
Yep.
The Chiefs want Chris Jones long term. Chris Jones wants to be a Chief long term. We'll see where ultimately it ends up going. It's a great point you talked about with Chris Jones even working out in Miami doesn't necessarily mean I want to be a Dolphin. Right. The other thing is, it's never heard that Chris Jones has been complaining or not happy about something in the organization. He might be annoyed by the fans talking about postseason sacks.
Sure.
But we found out Tyreek Hill was complaining to his agent about not getting the ball enough.
Good point.
So his willingness to go to New York or Miami was also, I'm kind of annoyed at how I'm being used in this offense. I don't think Chris Jones is annoyed by playing defensive end, playing defensive tackle, moving around, and doing some of the things he wanted. He wanted to move to defensive end full time. They tried it.
You don't think he's annoyed with Joe Cullen? Yeah, no, me neither, dude, because every time he opens his mouth, something nice about Joe Cullen just falls out.
Yeah.
Spags, Cullen, the rest. It's a new room. It's a new defensive front line. I'm sure he wishes Frank Clark was around. I don't think that's why this hasn't gotten a deal done yet.
Trade for Clark and I'll sign.
Hey, now listen. That might do the math at least, Brett. But Chris Jones is the leader of that defense now. Yeah. I mean, especially that front line. Mm-hmm. I think he likes the culture that the Chiefs have.
I didn't think Tyreek Hill was upset with his play in Kansas City or his usage or wanting to go somewhere else. But you know what? It needed to be said. There were games where he was complaining and not happy about what he was getting. So I don't think Chris Jones is in that camp, nor the camp in St. Joe.
Aristocrat Motors is proud to announce the grand opening of our new Mercedes.
Mahomes, Charles Omenihu, and Jerick McKinnon. We've mentioned that, when pads come on later this week or on into the weekend, there are 2 more days of acclimation period. Today, they're wearing the helmets and shells, the small little shoulder pads underneath the jersey, and they can do that tomorrow. And then there's a mandatory CBA mandatory day off on Thursday, 5 days after the 5 days after the report date. So Saturday would have been the first official practice, even though it was training and everything, because the first official practice after report date cannot involve a football or anything. It has to just be conditioning or, film and meetings and things like that. So they've got 5 days. They have an off day on Thursday, and then they'll be in pads. But I bring that up because we like looking at highlights. That's fun right now because we are starving and looking for the fun in football. And I love that KC Sports Network has a lot of different things that they tweet out, and acknowledging that it is not full pads, but it is back-to-back days where Rashee Rice makes a play in the end zone on a pass from Patrick Mahomes. Yesterday, it was a play in the back of the end zone beating Trent McDuffie. Today, it's a play in the back of the end zone beating L'Jarius Sneed. Just something to keep in mind. No pads, right? It's, 7-on-7, no pads, working red zone 7-on-7. And he works, an over route, and L'Jarius Sneed picks him up halfway, runs with him, and is there. And it was a great pass by Mahomes, puts it over the shoulder, but Rashee Rice had the separation, makes the catch. Yesterday, it was Rashee Rice making a diving catch in the back of the end zone, getting the knee down with Trent McDuffie in coverage, and it looked like Trent McDuffie almost tipped the ball. So just a couple things still out there, because we're looking for anything. Andy Reid right now.
Kadarius had surgery on his knee this morning for cartilage, and it should be relatively quick as we go here. He wanted to get that thing taken care of. And then Wharton is still on PUP. Isaiah Moore had a little knee inflammation, but did some stuff this morning. A shout out to LeBron and the junior, just that he's okay as we go here, and that's a tough deal that he's going through right now. On the football side, it was good work today. The guys, they're challenging each other. We were able to put the shells on today, and then the practice kicked up to 1 hour and 55 minutes. So we're continuing to ramp up here. We'll take a little step back once we get into pads on Friday, but for these next today and tomorrow, will be that 1 hour and 55-minute practice with shells. So, but I like the tempo. I like the challenge that the guys are doing. You're getting a good offensive play, good defensive play, offensive play, defensive play. And so they're busting their tail with each other and still taking care of business. All right, well, that time's yours.
Andy, what do you think is a reasonable time table for Tony to get him back out here?
I mean, there's a chance. There's a chance for the first game, but we'll see. We'll just have to see how the recovery goes with him. But, I mean, he's bound and determined he's going to be there for the first game. We'll see how it goes.
Does this change your thought on using him on special teams at all?
Now let's see how he does. Let's see how the rehab part goes, and if you have to have a surgery, I think we caught it at a good time. It looked like it was good when they were in there, all of that. So as long as the recovery goes well, I'm pulling for him there, in a positive way. So.
Coach, you guys have big plans on offense heading into the year. How much can this really change, just considering you have your scheming out and such as you go? Or is that possible?
Yeah, listen, I look at it the other. I go, I'm glad they caught it. That it happened this early where he can get himself back, and we've got a lot of time still left. He's a smart kid, so he picks this stuff up fairly easy. I don't think he's going to have a tough time getting back in. It's just getting back into football shape. Yeah.
Coach, just to clarify some timeline stuff, did he have a surgery in the offseason as well?
No. He was it the year before, when he was with the Giants.
Right. Okay. And then with him, he wants to get back out here. How hard? And then you deal with this all the time with this. How hard is it to keep them from trying to push it too hard to get back too soon? Yeah. Things like game one and all that.
Yeah, Rick will take care of the tempo on that. So he and his people there do a good job of that.
Is this something that potentially enter into the season?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think getting it done now is a good thing, as opposed to it lingering and then getting worse and worse. And I'm glad he got it knocked out and done. Yeah.
Second question, just on Patrick in general, but new tackles this year, obviously a bunch of new receivers last year, some new this year. How much do you just rely on them to sort of bring you guys that do come into the offense?
Yeah, so the urgency picked up a little bit today with the shells on, and they'll pick up another notch with the pads on, and it looked like they picked it up a little bit today, and as long as they can do that, and you know, hang with the scheme that they're taking place, I think they're going to be okay. I mean, they've been good players in the past, and they've got good tape, and so I think they're going to be okay. But they got to push through. There's a certain level that we expect them to be at. You know.
Coach, one more thing with Tony. What specifically happened on that play? Did you get a sense of it?
Yeah, really. I mean, it was part of his meniscus tour. So, you know, that's
just the way he turned.
Yeah, the way he turned. And, you know, he might have had a little something in there anyways, and it just, you know, it caught a little bit more. So, you know, you take care of those things, get them knocked out.
Coach Pacheco had 3 snaps, 7 on 7 today. Fair to say he's on schedule. How eager is he to get going?
Yeah, he's one you got to really watch, right? That guy. But he's doing good. He's 100 miles an hour on everything. You know, you got to tell him in walkthroughs. It's not full speed. You know, he's one of those guys. So it's good that he got a couple plays.
Andy, what's been the key with McKinnon becoming who he's become after all he's been through, and what's he still doing to you guys this far?
Yeah, well, he's smart. You know, he's a legitimate quarterback in college, and on a good team, and then he got in the league, and he had some productive years. Injuries got him there for a bit, and you know, we were lucky enough to get him here, and he's just he's solid. He's somebody that you trust, and everything he does, all phases of the game. So, including special teams, he can do everything.
And at his age, at that position,
he's a dinosaur. I mean, when you're 9-10 years into that running back position that has a lifespan of 3 years if you're lucky, I mean, it's a tribute to him and the way he takes care of himself.
With Pacheco, one thing last year, he had the best stuff rate in the league as far as getting stopped in 1 or 2 yards. It was a better rate than Kareem had in offense. What gives him that trick? He seems to find yards and fall forward every time.
Yeah, and he can continue to work on that. He'll get better with that, just getting his pad level down. But he's got great feet and good vision, and then he runs extremely hard, and it's not the flashiest thing you've seen. It's so productive though, and that effort, and you see it everywhere. You see it in practice. You see it everywhere. He keeps that same speed.
Coach, I know we have a chance to talk to Dave about special teams later, but you guys are working on kickoffs and stuff. Have you guys, what do you kind of guess what's going to happen now that you've been on the practice field with the kickoff return?
Yeah, we'll see. We have some competition back there. We'll just see how it goes. I don't want to slide anybody out of it because they're still competing, but we'll see. We've got a lot of guys that can do it.
On the rules stuff, as far as like what you look at on how many people are just going to fair catch it. I mean, I know we're not to a game yet to kind of figure.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll just kind of play that through the preseason game, see how things go.
All right. Thank you.
All right, good. Yep.
All right, there's Andy Reid. Lots of stuff to take away from that press conference there with Kadarius Toney, the timeline, surgery to repair partly torn meniscus in the punt return before practice has even started. There's a chance he'll be ready for week 1. Says Toney is bound and determined to play week 1. Glad they caught it early. Lots of time. He'll get mental reps. Smart player. And there's a chance he'll play in week 1 against the Lions. So there you go.
Makes it sound like there's a lot of chances he won't play in week 1. Maybe one chance that he will.
There's a chance he will. There's a chance he won't. There's some chances that are there.
I'm so sad.
I do wonder if we're nearing the end of Kadarius Toney as a punt returner. I mean,
that sentence wasn't a few words too long.
I see what you're saying, yeah. No, but I think the Chiefs have to examine that.
Yeah.
All right, what's more important, getting him some reps as a punt returner, which was great in the Super Bowl, certainly helped a lot, or maximizing how many reps you can get as an offense by limiting other areas that can result in injuries. He is somebody that it's Sammy Watkins. You're just simply going to have to live with the fact that injuries will happen with him. His body is not made the same in a lot of different ways. Here's Patrick Mahomes.
Start the ramp. Talk a little bit about what the difference is when you do start ramping.
Yeah, I think I like it because it kind of builds more like a game-like atmosphere. Obviously, it's harder. And guys have to continue to build through, but in the game, not everything's going to be perfect. So I think having these a little bit longer practices, you go through the ups and downs of practices, and you see how guys respond. So obviously, the first one's a little harder for most guys, and so I thought I thought they did a great job of battling through, and we had some positive stuff happen out there.
Patrick, as the team's clear leader, what is the message from Kadarius as he goes through this rehab now?
Yeah, I mean, I think his head's in the right spot regardless. I mean, he came in with the mentality that he was going to work and try to get himself better, and obviously he had the little deal happen. But I think the best thing about it is he can get it cleaned up or whatever it is. He's in all the meetings. He's still watching film with me, and we're talking through everything that we're doing. And so as long as his head's right there and he's learning that way, I have no doubt his physical ability will be there. So I'm just glad that he's here and he's going to be in the building, all the different meetings, because this is where we really set the offense on how we're going to go throughout the season.
What do you miss without him?
I mean, it's just reps. I mean, I think just getting reps with him, I think the good thing is we're hopeful that we're going to have him back for that first game. So it's just getting those reps. And then hopefully when we get him back out there, he can just kind of pick up where he left off. And I mean, we got a lot of reps in this summer in the off season, so I think that helped out a ton. And his talent is, I mean, everybody knows how talented he is, and I'm just excited for him to learn the offense from the start. Last year he picked it up as we're in advanced mode. Now he gets to see the beginner and work his way through it, and I'm excited for him when he gets back that he'll be ready to go.
Is there anything you're looking to step up now with him out?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think a lot of guys will kind of fill that role throughout training camp. I want guys to just be themselves. I think you've seen in this offense is it can be ran a lot of different ways. And so obviously when Kadarius is in there, we run it one way because of his talent and what he can do. And when he's not in there, we can run a different way to really accelerate the other guys' talents. And guys like Sky Moore, Rashee Rice will step up as well as guys like Marquez and Justin Watson. I mean, we have a lot of tight ends. We have a lot of depth in this entire team this year. And so I'm just excited for guys to go out there and seize their opportunity.
Guys you haven't played to get out of it on a regular basis. What's new tackles or just guys you haven't played with before?
Yeah, I like to test guys because I feel like now I have a good sense of the offense, obviously. So I like to try to do stuff to see how guys react. I mean, that's using a lot of different cadences throughout practice and see if the offensive line will sit in there with the new guys. And be off the ball at the right time, or if that's with the receivers. I know there's one down in the red zone today with Justin Ross where I try to throw him the fade ball, and that's not something that he necessarily is taught to do, but it's something that it's the next step. And so let's try it out here. If he messes up and he doesn't do it the next time, then whenever he gets to the game days, he'll do it right and score a touchdown. And so it's just stuff like that. It's just testing guys, doing that stuff that maybe not as talked about in the meeting room, but it's stuff that we do throughout our offense, and this is where you get to test it out, and Coach Reed gives me the freedom to do that.
I feel like having a bunch of new guys last year sort of helps you.
You must have talked too loud. You need to hold the foot there? I can do that.
It's like a bad table at a restaurant, right? I think the mold box might be working again now, but I don't know.
In the meeting room, but it's stuff that we do throughout our offense, and this is where you get to test it out, and Coach Reed gives me the freedom to do that.
I feel like having a bunch of new guys last year sort of helps you learn.
I think it just helped with me being able to teach the guys what I want, and Coach Reed give me the freedom to do that. And obviously, like I said, we do some stuff out here. There might be some mistakes, and we go in the film room, and Coach Reed lets me talk a lot. And obviously, he's going to get his points across because he's the master of the offense, but he can let the guys hear it from me and give me the freedom to do that. And then we do the walkthroughs, same thing. And so having that experience last year with a lot of new guys, I can kind of talk through it and have more confidence knowing that I'm saying the right thing. Yeah, it's just evolution of being the quarterback position is being able to learn more and then teach the other guys around you.
Patrick, early on here, it seems like there's a pretty clear back and forth between you and Trent McDuffie sort of going after each other. What have you seen from him and how has he improved?
Yeah, I mean, I knew last year he was going to be good because he's always in the right spot. And the next evolution for him is just making the interceptions. And so he's always going to be in the right spot. He's a smart player. He's physically gifted. He does a lot of great things, and I talk to him and Sneed and all those guys a lot. Especially out here, I'm going to test you. I'm going to try to see if I can get those throws in. I think you saw yesterday I got one in, and then today he got his hands on one and almost had an interception. So today's where we get to learn, is where you test each other and try to see how you can improve together. And some days that's me making throws, some days that's them making plays. But luckily I have Coach Reed and Coach Nagy and all these guys that want me to push the limit to an extent and still go out there and have success.
Last two will go Nate and Bahe. Patrick, I know the Pats haven't come on yet, but just what are you hoping to see on Friday? And what are your thoughts on Drew Frankel, seeing him in this environment in training camp?
Yeah, as far as the pads, I mean, you just want to see that next step both sides of the ball. I mean, you want to see, especially with the offensive line, I mean, two new guys on the edges, how we can do in the run game, what we can get away with if we're pulling guys or if we're zone blocking, whatever that is, you want to see where you can be at. And there's times, especially in training camp, where I'll leave the run on and just see if we can just run it. Like, maybe not the right box that we're looking for, but let's see if the guys can make it happen anyways. So definitely that with the pads. And then with Drew, I mean, he's just a smart player. I mean, I hated playing against him because he's one of those linebackers that's like calling out what you're saying at the line of scrimmage because he studies that much. And so I've already had to make up like all brand new code words because I can hear him on the other side. So he's a smart player. He's gifted. I mean, he's really good at covering as well as being in the right spot in the run game. And so I think it's just, I mean, that linebacker room, if you look at him, man, top to bottom, it's great players. And so I'm excited for that room to really take that next step. And we got a lot of great players in our room. I think it'd be one of the best groups in the league.
Last one, Bahe.
Patrick, we're speaking to Jarek here shortly, and I wonder if you have an appreciation of the arc of his career, what it's taken for him to keep doing it at this age, still be so dynamic after things he's been through.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said it. I mean, he's always been a great player, and injuries. I mean, they can get a lot of guys, especially in the NFL. Sometimes you get passed over because of those injuries, and he does it the right way. And I think that's why, even though he's had the injuries, he trains and kind of. I was talking with Derek. He's in the meeting room. He's learning so that when he gets back from injury, he's ready to go. And he's always doing stuff the right way. And I think it helps teach everybody, not just the running back room. It teaches me is like, hey, I might not be getting a rep, but I'm on the side talking through what's going on. I'm making sure that everybody in my room knows exactly what I'm thinking so I can learn from them. And so that's the type of players you need on this team. And I've always said it. It's like when he's back there, I don't have to say he might call the protection for me because that's how well he knows the offense. And so just having a guy like that you trust that can make plays whenever it counts, those are the type of guys that I'm glad that we have on this team.
Can you just elaborate on the dimension he brings that way? I mean, what it is he actually provides you?
Yeah, I mean, people talk about a vet, someone that just you learn from, but I mean, I think that's the definition is him. I mean, obviously he can go out there and make it happen. I mean, you see him makes the biggest plays in the biggest moments of the season, in which you love having those guys, but he's not. I don't want to. I mean, I guess the word is selfish. He's not keeping all that knowledge to himself. He's telling everybody. And you see guys like Travis Kelce is the same way. I mean, it's not about just being the greatest player that you can be. It's about making the team great. And he's one of those players that makes the entire team great.
All right. Thank you.
All right, there's Patrick Mahomes in what was a really interesting press conference, in the microphone falling and Patrick Mahomes catching it, and Todd Lebo saying it's like a bad table at a restaurant. Apparently it's wobbly, and Patrick Mahomes able to catch it. Just as good of a receiver as he is a quarterback. Hand-eye coordination, elite with Patrick Mahomes.
Just don't let him return punts.
I mean, the guy makes up for errors all over the place. He just covers up errors across the board.
Yeah, I don't assume that was actually Lebo's fault, but if it was, he should say it was, just so he can say, yeah, actually, Patrick Mahomes, little CYA for me. Appreciate that, 15.
Thank you, Patrick.
Little chest tap, hand up.
Yeah. A bad scenario would have been like Sky Moore or Rashee Rice or somebody there, and then the microphone drops.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Like, it'd be a mic drop, but couldn't catch that thing, man. Come on.
And then to make it more interesting, while we were in the middle of that description, the emergency alert system did a weekly test. So about 15 seconds of what you just said was gone. But better while you guys were talking than while Patrick was talking. So thanks for the weekly required weekly test.
Yeah.
This is Sports Radio 10 WHB Kansas City, serving the Kansas City metropolitan area. Thank you.
And that's the voice you'll typically hear when you hear that. It's a test of the emergency alert system. If anything was going on, let's say if aliens came over and took over the world, you would not hear us. They would cut out of the Patrick Mahomes press conference. I mean, priorities. Here's Charles Emmanuel.
That's something I haven't done my whole career, so that's something that I'm every day learning and asking questions.
waiting there to see if mics can fall, be caught, put back at somebody's waist. McKinnon almost being hidden by the mic because he's a little bit smaller.
Chief Saholic is there. Oh, unfortunately, the audio cut out.
No,
That's
no.
crazy. We're going to get a statement and everything.
Dang it, man. He's so elusive, even in talking to the media. He cannot be contained.
Kirk Cousins and Marcus Mariota are there together. That doesn't make any sense.
This is odd. Marcus Mariota might be there. I don't know. Did he leave his team again?
Hey-o.
Kirk Cousins just mixing in with the media. Just standing back there wearing just a regular shirt and look like, hey, this is a guy, member of the media. You look like Kirk Cousins. I get that a lot. I do. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will talk about Kadarius Toney and what Andy Reid said, the reaction, and the timeline. Kadarius Toney, there's a chance he is ready for Week 1 against the Lions. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
There's a chance Kadarius Toney's ready for Week 1, but there's no hesitation at all. 100% my certifiable guarantee that there's a chance you'll get to Greenlight Dispensary and find exactly what you're looking for. Unless you're looking for number 1 wide receiver. I don't know about all that, but we'll let the Chiefs handle that. Let me tell you what you can get from Missouri's best dispensary, voted numerous times by the people of Missouri. Greenlight Dispensary is about cannabis with culture. They have the highest quality standards from seed to sale, and that really comes through in their product. Plus, they have their own products you can check out at any Greenlight location. Their goodies line, their take on everyone's favorite treats, just infused, or their core chews gummies. Lots of great options, including a ton of options from all of Missouri's best, a bunch of Missouri's best cannabis brands. So you can go check it out in store or online at greenlightdispensary.com. If you haven't gone through the website and just browsed your options yet, I think you're going to really be blown away because there are a ton of different options. And if you don't know where to begin, I'll tell you where to begin. Just walk in to a Greenlight location, ask the bud tender what's right for you. You can tell them what you're looking for. They can ask you what you're looking for. You'll figure it out together. That's how it started for me at Greenlight. I'm really glad that's where I went very, very first here in Missouri. So go check them out. Any of those 4 KC area locations or online where you can order online and pick it up from the drive-thru or grab-and-go window, which is an incredible setup. That's all at Greenlight Dispensary. Check them out online at greenlightdispensary.com.
Hey guys, Matt Coker here from West Coast Men's Health to let you...
I'd say more like 1 out of a million.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
There is a chance that Kadarius Toney can play Week 1 against the Detroit Lions. Andy Reid saying that Kadarius Toney tore part of his meniscus on that punt early in practice on Sunday, and they decided that they'd go ahead and clean that up right now. He said, glad they caught it early. There's lots of time to recover. I think that's lots of time is certainly relative of the entire season. There's lots of time to recover. He said with the surgery, the recovery is relatively quick. Again, relatively quick. What does that mean to you? It's not a season-ending injury. So when he says it's relatively quick, it's a month and a half, 2 months before he's ready to. Who knows? But he said there's a chance he's ready for Week 1. But Kadarius Toney is bound and determined to play Week 1. Kadarius Toney also saying that the report from Adam Schefter was slightly wrong. So the report from Adam Schefter is Chiefs Kadarius Toney, who underwent an offseason cleanup procedure on his knee, aggravated the injury Sunday while fielding a punt and is expected to miss some time during training camp, but ready for the start of the regular season, per league source. Kadarius Toney saying, report slightly wrong, but I'll definitely be back soon. Heart emoji, love you. Chiefs Kingdom. I'm guessing the slightly wrong part is Andy Reid clarifying that the cleanup offseason procedure for the knee was in the summer of 2022.
Right.
It was not this year. So this is I think that's an important distinction, because when it's he underwent an offseason cleanup procedure on his knee and then aggravated that injury, could mean a couple things. One, the offseason cleanup didn't go well. Or two, is this freaking thing going to be chronic now?
Yeah.
Because he just cleaned it up and then aggravated it a couple of months later, or whenever it was. Done last year, did he aggravate that injury of the cleanup? If you're talking about a cleanup that took place last summer, and what was the cleanup last summer, as opposed to and compared to Andy Reid saying that he tore part of his meniscus cutting and changing direction, and he tore part of his meniscus. I don't know if this is connected or not, I've often thought that Kadarius Toney plants his leg very violently in the ground when he cuts.
He does. It's what makes him so elusive.
Yes, it's a very violent show the leg and cut back the other way. It's not a quick little jitterbug, I'm going to show the leg and then scat the other way. It's slam the leg in the ground to cut the other way. That's always concerned me. I don't know if that has anything to do with this or not, but he tore part of his meniscus changing directions in a punt return on Sunday.
I appreciate Andy Reid going with the calm, brave face in the presser today, because that's what the head coach is going to do. The thing that I really get caught up on here now is that you simply cannot hold these two thoughts at the same time.
I can hold thoughts at the same time.
Not these two.
I'm holding them.
I don't think you're even going to try, to be honest. I think you're going to realize they're too heavy and you're going to set them down. It's going to be okay.
Right, give me one.
You cannot hold this idea that Andy Reid's training camps are intensive and important and lay the foundation for the upcoming season, a thing I do generally hold pretty well.
Yeah.
And then this other thing I'm going to put in your other hand to try to hold is that Kadarius Toney missing the entirety of training camp isn't a big deal.
I lost it.
You dropped it. Those ideas are scattered all over the floor now.
I was holding one of them just fine.
One of them's fine. I don't
Yes.
think you can hold them both together. And it just bums me out, because there was so much offseason talk about, the Chiefs really see Kadarius Toney as their wide receiver one. Hey, skill-wise, so did I. But is he going to be able to meet the thresholds required to, in the NBA, you have to play a certain number of games to be an all-NBA. I don't know how many games you have to beat to be a team's number one wide receiver, but I really do think you probably need to be there for training camp. And this is not like Kadarius Toney doing something wrong or being a bad person whose knee bit him. It's just deeply unfortunate, because all the skill is there, and his ability to be not even like Tyreek Hill light, just sort of a different little tweak on Tyreek Hill. I'm really bought into. But part of the appeal this year was that he was going to have his first Chiefs training camp to get acclimated to the offense, to spend more time with Mahomes. And that's just gone now, and we'll see him in week 1, maybe. It just bums me out, because it changes my expectations. It changes the timeline.
Joe Valerio this morning said that in college he was taught that there were 4 main things about playing football that you had to have. You needed to be mobile, you needed to be hostile, you needed to be agile, and you needed to be eligible. And in college, eligible is a different meaning than in the NFL, but it's two things in college. One, your books, your studies, and also ability to be out there, availability. The best ability was Herm Edwards. The best ability is availability. And Kadarius Toney has a lot of ability.
Yep.
But availability is going to be something in his career that you just wonder what it's going to be. And the difference is, if this was still with the Giants as opposed to the Chiefs, I think it would be a bigger issue in terms of what you gave up to get him. This is a third-round draft pick wide receiver who you think has the potential of being a number one wide receiver. But you gave up a third-rounder for him because he wasn't that guy in New York for whatever reason, issues. I mean, my buddy texted me right when they traded for Kadarius Toney. He said the guy is immensely talented and he will keep the training room busy.
Yep.
And that's what he's done. He has kept the training room busy. Okay.
Tweeted that he trusts Julie Freimeyer with his life.
That's right.
A lot on her plate. Now she got to keep him healthy and alive.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
I mean, my goodness.
Yikes.
Wow. I mean, I know she's really talented and good at her job.
Really good at her job.
And was a big part of, helping Patrick Mahomes get back.
Do you think Kadarius Toney just, looks around to see if Julie's around and then just, walks across the street, not at a crosswalk, just hey, Kadarius! No, come on, man!
She grabs him right as
Yes. Yanks him back.
She is constantly diving and tackling him before he walks out into traffic.
She'd be one of the only people who can. She should be playing linebacker, too.
Exactly right. He will keep the training staff and the training room busy. And that's what he's done. He's essentially he's going to be this team's version of Sammy Watkins. Yeah. But if you get him sporadically and he can make differences while he's out there, yeah, that's worth a third rounder in what he's already done. What it does bring up is the questions that were there about the wide receiver room lasted all about negative 20 minutes into training camp for the veterans. When the first actual full squad practice started, negative 20 minutes from that happening, it had already jumped up to bite you.
Yep.
That, okay, this receiving room is, on paper with MVS and Toney and Sky Moore and Rashee Rice and Justin Watson and Richie James, it's got some depth and some talent. You got some flyers in Justin Ross and John Ross. So there are certainly some guys there. But you take Toney away, and you have just taken a lot off of one plate, and you've either put it all on a Sky Moore, or you've tried to equally disperse it between Sky Moore and Rashee Rice. And for a rookie, that may be more than his plate can hold.
That's a lot.
Sky Moore's second year, he should have already been ready to eat a little bit more. He should already be ready for a bigger helping, a bigger serving. I think Richie James probably gets a bigger serving than some people were saying, but now even more. I've liked him since the signing. We'll see. He'll get opportunities now. There's a lot of opportunities in training camp. If Justin Ross wants to make this squad, guess what?
Doors open.
No Toney throughout training camp. That is one guy that was going to get a lot of reps that no longer is getting reps. Justin Ross, John Ross, also John Ross. Who's returning punts now? I know that there was video of Justin Ross returning punts.
And they'll rotate guys through there, so.
Right. He's a wide receiver.
We'll see, yep.
Wide receivers are back there catching the ball, returning punts. Who's the punt returner for the Chiefs now in week 1? Is it Toney?
Sky Moore said he's still fielding them in practice.
But he did not sound confident when he was asked about, are you, wanting to return? Well, obviously exaggerating, but boy, it didn't sound like he was like, hell yeah, give me a chance, give me an opportunity. Last time I returned to punt, beat the Bengals, damn it. Okay? It's the last punt. It's like the 18th hole in golf. Best shot I hit of the day was my approach from the fairway, put it right next to the pin on hole 18. I can't wait to get out there again. My round was awful. Sky Moore, 17 holes, sucked. 18th hole, boom, put it right next to the pin on his last punt return of the season.
To be fair, at this point, Sky Moore should genuinely be on the field offensively so much that he is more or less ineligible to return punts. Like, that should actually be the expectation this year, which is crazy. But
right, and then the same thing they did with Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
When he got more opportunity in playing wide receiver, he got less at punt return. Is that going to be the role for Kadarius Toney now? Okay, who takes over punt returning for Kadarius Toney? And if Kadarius Toney is your punt returner and he's not on the team and he's hurt, great. You don't have a punt returner then. Right. Perfect. Sign me up. That's my perfect punt returner.
Yeah, that's actually your ideal is Kadarius Toney is the punt returner, including when he's ineligible.
Yeah,
when he is inactive, he is still the punt returner.
When he is not eligible.
By the way, I have the breaking NFL news from the Katz brothers that we've all been waiting for.
Okay.
The Commanders are signing Byron Pringle to a 1-year deal, baby, per the Katz bros.
It's funny.
Old friend alert.
Here's the
Eric
thing.
Bieniemy.
I know that they represent at least two guys, Chris Jones and Byron Pringle, because they were Chiefs. So the fact that you said somebody's on, it's the only other guy I could have possibly guessed.
Do you think each brother gets one, and they just like did rock paper scissors at one point, and they're really one of them's really pissed because they get Byron Pringle's a little agent fee, and the other one's like, we're holding out for 30.
Well, if it's only one with Chris Jones, then it's Jason. But
That's
if it's
because
both,
of his name, or,
it's. But if it's both, it's both. But if it's only one guy, it's Jason that's doing the Chris Jones thing. But I think it's probably both. Like who's arguing in the meeting? Like your turn.
I think that's what's been holding things up. Sorry, Chris, we can't really talk to the Chiefs until we get Pringle signed.
It's taking up so much of our bandwidth right now.
So there you go. Byron Pringle is a Guardian.
He's a Guardian.
There you go. So you got
Commander. Wow, I had to think about it though. I corrected you, and before the word was out of my mouth, is that actually true? They're going to change their name soon.
Thank
anyway.
God. Just go back to football team, please.
Football team's good.
Football club, Washington Football Club. I don't care. Don't care what it is.
Oh, more good Katz brothers news. Think about it this way, guys.
Okay.
New contracts. Once you pop, you can't stop. Pringle done. Jones next. Pop it.
Pringle joke. I get it.
Yeah. Did you ever hear any of those when he was playing here?
Nope. Not at all.
You know, Ryan Fitzpatrick went to Harvard.
Did he really?
Yeah, sure did. Guy with the big beard.
People should talk to him about that.
I think so.
Did you know Willie Cauley-Stein played football in high school?
I'd love to see that.
Yeah. It's like pictures of him being 7 feet, catching a football over a smaller player. He doesn't even have to jump, though. But yeah.
Seems like he should have been better at football.
Yeah. Should be on the Chiefs, returning punts. He'd be able to catch it at its peak.
I tell you what, now that's a market inefficiency.
It only had 1 second of hang time. Why? Because Cauley-Stein caught it right when it started to come down. Right. We will talk some baseball. Cauley-Stein may have played that. Jeff Montgomery next.
What's up, Kansas City? This is Jack Johnson. You work hard to make sure your family has everything they need. Life insurance from American Family can help financially protect.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We're talking some baseball, joined now by Jeff Montgomery, Valley Sports Royals Hall of Famer. He's presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Is your man cave ready? Complete your game day setup with a home equity line of credit from First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Get game day ready at ffbkc.com. Monty, how are you, sir?
Doing pretty good, Jason. Looking forward to another hopefully exciting game tonight. Royals flexing their muscles, hitting some home runs here, but just one win on the road trip.
That was nice. Nice to see Salvi get some of the power back over these last couple of days. It seemed like the power was gone a little bit, but maybe that rest over the All-Star break and things like that. So that was nice to see. The next time we talk, Monty, will be post-trade deadline. So I'm just curious, what's this week like in a Major League Baseball clubhouse, maybe from a team that is winning and you're maybe paying attention and hoping that, you guys will make a move, a team that's in the position of the Royals where, who knows who might be traded, or even middle of the pack, a team that's sort of looking around and going, does the organization believe in us or not? How interesting or odd, or what's it like for a player this week before the trade deadline?
Well, it's probably a little less intense with regards to discussions than it is maybe around the front offices in Major League Baseball, around the fan bases in Major League Baseball, but certainly there's a knowledge or awareness that things are going on. I think especially if you've heard your name or you've been talked about a little bit regarding something happening, but about 99.5% of these things never happen. So it's just, I guess that week, that phase of baseball that there is some discussion. It's interesting. I think a lot less goes on nowadays than maybe what it used to because of the value of prospects. Everybody who is looking to trade some of their veteran players who are maybe going to be rental players are looking for prospects, and no one wants to give up the prospects nowadays.
Yeah, people, I guess, have gotten a little smarter with luxury tax, and if you're really good and really cheap, it's much better than just trading all your prospects for guys who are rental players. Guys whose names that have been mentioned. Let's talk about, like, say, for instance, not specific, but for instance, a Scott Barlow, whose name's been talked about for a couple of months, and even last year at this time, a couple of months. You're a professional. You're out there. You got to do your job. But does that, come into your mind at all that, okay, if I'm pitching tonight, is there a scout here that's going to trade for me, that team? If I struggle, am I going to get traded or not? Does that ever enter your mind? Or at this stage, like, professionals just sort of know how to go about their business and be able to compartmentalize things?
Well, it may enter your mind, during the course of the day, maybe after a game, but certainly during a game, that's the last thing on your mind. You have no concern or, any knowledge of that. I know for a number of years I was supposedly going to the Atlanta Braves. John Sherholtz, our former general manager, was in Atlanta, and they didn't have, like what I would call like a bona fide closer who had been there for a number of years in the Atlanta system. It seemed like I was always going to the Braves. And I heard it. People, the media would talk about it. They would ask me questions about it. And my response generally would be is like, I have no control over it. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But as far as going out into a game, there's absolutely no concern or, thought about that.
Did family members talk about it? Did you have discussions, like I would guess, like significant others or wife or, hey, we may be in Atlanta next week?
I don't recall having discussions about it because, like I mentioned earlier, it's, such a long shot of anything like that ever happening. I guess if it does happen to you, then you deal with it. But you also know that there's probably a good chance it's not going to happen.
Do you think there are players, and maybe not even on the Royals, but do you think there are players that maybe are on some teams that are like, man, I really hope I get traded. I'd like to see the playoffs. It would be great to experience that. It doesn't mean you're unhappy with the organization, but an opportunity to see what the postseason is like. Do you think there are some players maybe in the bullpen, more than the most likely players to get traded? A lot of bullpen pieces move around this week, but that maybe look at it and go, you know what, I'm all for it. If they want to trade me, great. I want an opportunity to pitch in the postseason.
Yeah, probably not hoping for it, but certainly would welcome the opportunity. I think. I know even as a player myself, if I would have been traded to the Atlanta Braves and had a chance to go to the postseason, that would have been great because generally that means you're at the end of a contract. You're in a situation where you're going to be able to negotiate with teams after afterwards, and you can always come back to your previous team. So, yeah, I think postseason is something everybody has their sights set on, and if you can achieve that by a trade or a sudden move, then hey, that's probably a bonus for you.
I do wonder what it's like for like minor leaguers this week, because I just feel like everybody, unless you're like a really, really high-end prospect, like, Jackson Holliday for the Orioles, the number one prospect in baseball. The Orioles are going to be buyers, but he ain't going anywhere. So he's going to be a Baltimore Oriole for a long time. But it sort of feels like every prospect and every organization, depending on the trade, could get moved. I mean, the Braves made a move for a reliever from the Rockies, and the number 10 prospect, or 18, depending on which publication you look at, was moved. It's like, I wonder what it's like for minor leaguers that, this week, because it's not like there are any or many untouchable minor leaguers that somebody would not trade.
Yeah, I'd never thought about that, but certainly those would be the players that are most likely to be changing scenery if teams are looking, for that so-called rental player, then they're going to want some of those prospects. Normally, they're not going to want their 100th best prospect. They're going to want their best prospect they got.
Yeah, it would also be interesting, like the mindset of a minor leaguer. Like, do you want to get traded? Because you might be comfortable in the organization you're in, and clearly that organization is successful because they're moving prospects to try to win that year. But you're also going to a team that believes in you enough that they want to bring you into their organization, because maybe there's a clear path to the big leagues by being traded. I kind of wonder, maybe everybody might have their own different individual mindset, but sort of the majority of what players may feel of, I'm open to getting traded because it means that organization is wanting me, and I might have a clear path to get to the big leagues.
Yeah, I think every player who's in the minor leagues would love to have a chance to get traded, because when you get traded, it generally means that you're going to go to a situation where somebody needs your services, and there's a good chance you're going to either end up in the major leagues or there's a short path to the major leagues. You may be blocked in the current organization, so a trade certainly is going to create a little bit more of an open path to get to the big leagues.
Jeff Montgomery is our guest, Bally Sports Royals Hall of Famer, presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. There are some surprises in when you find out, like, somebody is a fan of this or that. Like, I got a buddy who grew up in Kansas City as a Buffalo Bills fan for whatever reason. I'm not sure. People are weird. But it was one of the more surprising things to find out that Dan Hurley was a Royals fan. That was really interesting, and I loved the interview before the game on Sunday. What was that like for you and Joel to be around, Hurley and talk with him and pick his brain and reminisce a little bit about his time growing up a Royals fan around, surrounded by Yankees fans?
Well, it was very interesting because we had heard that he was a Royals fan, and we had a little bit of a background as to why he was a Royals fan, and he was a Royals fan because when he was about 10 years old, he saw the George Brett Pine Tar game, and that just turned him on to George Brett and the Kansas City Royals. And I was shocked when he was walking over from the area behind home plate to come over and do the interview with Joel Goldberg and myself. He comes up to me and he like shook my hand and gave me a hug. He's like, dude, he goes, you're my favorite close, right? Because I love watching you, during the day. So I was like, that is pretty cool to have someone, who just is a head coach on a national championship basketball team that you were one of his favorite players, when he was growing up. So that's pretty cool. But he was certainly entrenched with Royals knowledge, understood, so much about the history of the organization, certainly the playoff and World Series run. He was just very, very knowledgeable. So it was not fluff. He was certainly bona fide, true blue Royals fan.
Yeah, it was, and you could tell that he was genuinely sort of excited and touched when he saw the George Brett jersey and the personalized autograph. Like, he was sort of taken aback. And this is a guy that could probably reach out to almost anybody and get an autograph. He's the national championship winning coach at UConn, so you can open up some doors for you. But he looked genuinely excited and touched by the gesture by George Brett.
Well, I thought he was going to actually tear up. I mean, he was certainly emotional, and afterwards he was looking at that like couldn't believe it. He literally could not believe that he had a personalized jersey that George Brett had sent him, and in fact that George is looking forward to the future. When he comes to Lawrence to play the Jayhawks next year, George is certainly going to connect with him. So he was energized by that. And again, it was very emotional for him.
Jeff Montgomery is our guest, Valley Sports Royals Hall of Famer. I want to go back to the weekend a little bit before we talk about, maybe some things going on in Cleveland or just the team in general. But over the weekend in Yankee Stadium, Alec Marsh, we've talked about him a couple of times of what we've seen from him, and a big league slider. And, some of the stuff and the metrics, looked the same and looked really good. The numbers didn't turn out all that great, and only 3 strikeouts and, 5 1/3 innings pitched. He gave up 5 earned runs and a couple of walks there. How do you, how do you assess an outing like that? Maybe if you're Alec Marsh, that you leave the game giving up 5 earned runs, into the 6th inning, and 4 of those runs come off a couple of home runs that are Yankee Stadium home runs, that were home runs in only 3 of 30 ballparks, that would be, fly balls to almost the warning track, maybe not even to the wall in Kauffman Stadium. It's like, well, he got a hold of it, but he didn't get it all. And I got out of that one. Maybe I got away with one, but, sort of playing to the ballpark. But in Yankee Stadium, that's not the case. He ends up giving up 5 earned runs. How do you assess that, either from the analyst side, from you, and maybe even a player's side, where Alec Marsh, walks off the mound looking at the scoreboard, 5 earned runs, where at Kauffman it might only look like 1?
Yeah, for Marsh, I'm sure it was a head scratcher, because you think about the pitches you make, and if you throw 100 pitches just for a round number, and 2 of those pitches end up costing you 4 runs or 5 runs, it's really difficult to maybe digest that and feel good about it. But his stuff certainly was good. He's seemingly very composed. I mean, he doesn't allow the team he's pitching against, and he's pitched against some pretty good offenses, or the environment he's pitching in, and one of the biggest stages in baseball in Yankee Stadium. It doesn't seem like he allows that to interfere with his process and what he's trying to accomplish on the mound. I think the only thing he probably would take away from that is, hey, when I'm pitching in this ballpark, particularly Yankee Stadium, maybe I'm going to stay a little bit more, say, hard stuff away from lefties to eliminate the ability to pull a baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Or just maybe eliminate as many possibilities as you can of those crazy Yankee Stadium home runs beating you or hurting you the way that they did. But his stuff was good. Everything about his outing, with the exception of those 2 cheap home runs, was outstanding.
Is it tough as a pitcher to sort of not think about the fact that fly balls at Yankee Stadium can be home runs that aren't home runs in any other ballpark?
Well, I know from my experience, whether I was pitching in Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park or in the day Royal Stadium, my philosophy was ground balls cannot leave the yard. Yeah. And if I can keep the ball down, there's a good chance I'm going to get a ground ball. So I think that's the thing that's different now, is with the launch angles and the way that hitters approach baseball. There's a lot of pitching up in the zone now, and it's just something that wasn't part of my game back in the day. It is part of the game in today's game, and I think that's one thing that maybe you would have to make a little bit of an adjustment to when you're pitching in a ballpark where something up becomes, a pitch that can be elevated. As a result of being elevated, it can leave the ballpark because of the dimensions. So you maybe have to change a little bit in that regard. But I always, again, felt like, hey, if I can stay down and away, there's hardly any hitter in baseball on a pitch down and away that's going to hit a home run. I don't care what ballpark you're pitching in. So that's the only change that I would say that maybe you can learn from.
Although last night when Michael Garcia got the home run, who was it for the Guardians? Allen. Logan Allen was like, really? Watching his reaction and seeing Michael Garcia run around the bases was like, you hit that pitch out. That was low and away fastball. And not only did you get there, you barreled it up and you put it over the fence by about 1.5 feet. He looked annoyed and almost sort of taken aback that Garcia was able to get there. So that was a down and away pitch where you're like, you know what? Either at that point, Monty, you tip your cap, but it's sort of a tip your cap by being maybe annoyed and bewildered at the same time.
Yeah, it's the guy on the other side there with the bat in his hand wearing that helmet. He gets a nice paycheck as well. So sometimes you don't win every battle. Sometimes you have to credit the hitter and allow them to get what they earn. And if they earn it, then hey, you can tip your cap and say, hey, job well done. not happy about it, but that's baseball.
Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports Royals Hall of Famer. He's presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. A couple of more and we'll let you go. But MJ Melendez, since the break, I mean, before the break, he was really, really struggling. He was OPSing at 622. The break happens. Small sample size, as we say. But before last night, in the games since the All-Star break, it's a 10-game stretch, but he was batting .300 and OPSing at 820. And he had 5 extra base hits in those 10 games. To put that into perspective, Monty, he had 6 extra base hits in his previous 30 games, and he's had 5 in his last 10. Anything that you're seeing from MJ Melendez, anything different, just a break, taking some time away, letting everything sort of process and clear the mind, clear the mechanism? What have you seen from MJ since the break?
Well, I think maybe just a little bit more of a relaxed approach. I think as a hitter, even pitchers, I mean, anyone who's struggling, sometimes you try hard to fight yourself back to where you need to be. And sometimes that involves a little bit more effort than you need. As a result, you get away from your mechanics, you get away from your game. I've seen MJ, with a lot of strikeouts, a lot of fly balls. When you're a guy that hit 40 home runs in the minor leagues, hey, you think you're going to come to big leagues and hit a bunch of home runs. And when you don't do that, sometimes try a little bit harder to do what you want to accomplish, and it gets you out of your game. So maybe just a little bit more of a relaxed approach. We saw Michael Massey do that in New York and hit 3 home runs. Didn't try to hit the ball hard, just tried to hit the ball on the line, and you get a little bit of lift and elevation. Next thing you know, good things are happening. So I think it's just a matter of kind of staying within yourself and allowing your mechanics to do the job. Don't try to muscle up. Don't try to do too much. And maybe that's just something that every player is going to go through, and maybe something MJ Melendez is starting to pick up. But I think just shortening your swing a little bit, using the middle part of the field, hitting line drives, and once that happens, it just seems like everything else falls into place.
Jeff Montgomery, our guest, Bally Sports Royals Hall of Famer, presented by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Last one for you, the issues that were taking place in Yankee Stadium, opportunities to win games, but the Royals were giving away outs on the base paths, and they have a more aggressive approach, which I'm perfectly fine with. They, lack for power, and so you got to find ways to do some things on the base paths. They have some speed, obviously, with Bobby Witt and Drew Waters and Blanco off the bench, and Michael Garcia can run, and others. So they're a little more aggressive in a series like the Yankees when you have some mistakes that are made or overly aggressive players. Bobby Witt on the bunt, trying to get to second, thinking the Yankees weren't paying attention. He was out, give away an out there, could have been a leadoff single. And he could end up at second by stealing anyway. Drew Waters going to third when the ball was to his right, the ground ball to his right, and he was thrown out at third. Nick Prado sort of slowing up at third, and I don't know if Vance Wilson was sending him or not, but then all of a sudden he, tries to, run again after Stanton bobbles the ball, but, had to stay there. But the base running for the Royals, it's been good overall. They've been aggressive. Are some of those things to where maybe they, in a condensed series, that a couple of those things pop up where you kind of get annoyed, but over the course of the season where you're going to be more aggressive, and it's worked out for the most part for the Royals. I appreciate that approach. What do you make of, like, this season, the base running we've seen, but against the Yankees, it was sort of one of those things to where each game had an issue where the Royals gave away some outs?
Yeah, I think when you talk about base running, you always want to be aggressive, but there's another word that follows, and that's intelligent. And I think we had some aggressive but not intelligent moves during that Yankee series. And I think those certainly get magnified, especially when you're losing games 3-2 or 4-5-4. When they're one-run games, they certainly hurt. I mean, one play I'll talk about in particular was a play that ended the game when Drew Waters was thrown out at third base. Mm-hmm. Bobby Witt's up, 2 outs in the 9th inning, and it's a ground ball to the right side. He has to break on that because you have to score if that ball gets through. So that was really I think that's one of those plays where you have to credit the defense for making the play they made. That was an outstanding play. The difference, I spoke with Vance Wilson about that particular play. Drew Waters was in a line between second base and third base. So really what you need to be is you need to be a little bit more out toward the outfield so you could take a straight line, because what happened when that ball was hit, he had to take almost an arc around to get his turn ready to score. As a result, it created a little bit longer path to get to third base. And that bang-bang play, suddenly he's out instead of being safe. But if he was back a little bit running directly to third, shorter distance, probably would have beat that throw. But that's one of those in-between plays. It wasn't really what you call a mistake by Drew Waters on the base pass. It was just a situation that hopefully he will learn from. Vance Wilson told me, he said 95% of the base runners are going to make that same mistake.
Interesting.
And you learn from it. Now next time, get that lead to where now you got a shorter path to third base.
Yeah, that's it's interesting to know, and it's a good point, and learning opportunity for Drew Waters. They got the Guardians tonight and tomorrow before returning home with 3 against Minnesota, and then finishing off the homestand after they play the Twins with 3 against the New York Mets. Monty, appreciate you joining us as always. Enjoy Cleveland next couple days, and we will talk next week.
All right, Jason, appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. There's Jeff Montgomery, Bally Sports Royals Hall of Famer. He is presented each and every time we have him on by First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Is your man cave ready? Complete your game day setup with a home equity line of credit from First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Get game day ready at ffbkc.com. We take a timeout. We come back. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
All right, we've told you about our friends over at Bickmer Electric. More than 20 years in the industry, Bickmer Electric, your locally owned and operated one-stop electrical contractor. Whether that is small jobs, big jobs, if it's commercial, residential, Bickmer Electric will take care of you. Anything you need done, they've done it for more than 20 years in the industry. You want to trust the local people that have been there, done that for a while, and continue to be around. Check them out online, BickmerElectric.com, BICKIMER electric.com. You can check out the virtual walkthrough, which is pretty awesome, the technology and everything. And I know there's a lot of technology out there, but it was just cool for me to see that, to go through all of those things as easy as it was, to still get the picture, to still have the understanding between the two of us in discussing what exactly we wanted, and we were on the same page. There wasn't some misunderstanding because they were on the phone or they were looking through a video, and it's like, no, we meant over there. No, they're drawing on it, everything. So it is awesome, convenient. You can give them a call, 913-313-6751. And you can ask about the Safe Home Plan. Includes 2 comprehensive maintenance inspections each year. You'll enjoy the priority service guaranteed within 24 hours during regular business hours, and an exclusive 15% discount off on all repairs. BickmerElectric.com, BICKIMER electric.com. Check them out online there, or give them a call, 913-313-6751. It's Bickmer Electric.
Men, summer is here. It's a time to vacation, get outside, and
All right, thank you to Jeff Montgomery, Royals Hall of Famer, Bally Sports. Talking some Royals there. Talked a lot of Chiefs throughout the show. Started with Chris Jones and that conversation in the first hour. And then hearing from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Charles Omenihu, and Jerick McKinnon. And Andy Reid talking about Kadarius Toney and the injury that he sustained in practice on Sunday before practice really started, in returning some punts, in attempting to change direction, tore part of his meniscus, having surgery. Andy Reid saying the recovery is relatively quick, and there's a chance he will be ready for Week 1, but Kadarius Toney is bound and determined to play Week 1, so it does not look like we will see Kadarius Toney at the least, or the earliest, until the Detroit Lions game. You won't be playing in any preseason games, and probably not out there doing a whole lot of practicing before that Lions game. So we'll see what happens with that, how much he plays, if he plays, when he'll be back, if the PUP list is in his future for training camp. But since training camp has already started, it won't matter because he would have to make the 53-man roster anyway if he's on the PUP list. Plus, I doubt the Chiefs think he'll be out till Week 5. If there's a chance he'll play Week 1, and he's determined to play Week 1, then probably wouldn't put him on, even if this happened like Thursday or Friday before reporting, because at that point he wouldn't count against the 90. But if he doesn't count against the 53, he's out for the first 4 games. So,
like Tershawn Wharton right now, placed on the PUP list, but that was for the surgery from early last year through the offseason. So they can activate him off the PUP list anytime. Somebody else in the NFL just had a relatively decent name, was on the PUP list for like an hour, and then they brought him off again. So the PUP list stuff changes though once camp actually gets going,
Once
they
the
get regular
practice starts.
season, all of that. Then the rules change. But just the PUP list doesn't mean that Tershawn Wharton won't play Week 1. He still could.
It means that Tershawn Wharton, because he was placed on the PUP list before training camp, he doesn't have to make the team's 53-man roster to still be on the team. He just, if that happens, wouldn't play the first 4 games of the season.
And similarly with the IR rules, if you are placed on IR before the 53-man cutdown, you're done for the year. If you make the 53-man cutdown and then you're placed on IR, then you can be eligible to return after that threshold. Some of those rules are kind of flexible. We'll try to do our best to keep you, the listener, up to date on what all those are. But got to keep a lot of sticky notes.
Yeah, and he may be because I don't know if the reserve PUP counts against the 90 or not, because that's getting injured within training camp. Because, again, the first practice for the Chiefs veterans was Saturday. I know that the first actual team practice was Sunday, but the NFL's training camp, with the conditioning and everything that they did, which is practice number 1. No football, no team drills. It's conditioning, training, meetings. That was practice number 1. Once that practice started, you could no longer place them on the PUP list for the preseason before training camp. So even if Kadarius Toney got injured, quote unquote, before practice on Sunday, he had already practiced on Saturday. So, the lot of details doesn't really matter. He's going to make the squad this year, and we'll just see if he's. What would matter though is if they were able to sneak him through, or not sneak him, but if he was on the PUP list and he didn't have to make the 53-man roster to start the season, then that would open up a roster spot for one of the wide receivers. That's the distinction as to what would matter between if he got injured on Friday or got injured on Sunday, is that if they thought there was a chance he would miss the first 4 weeks, and you don't think, using an example, you can get Justin Ross to the practice squad, but you think Tony's going to be out for 3 or 4 weeks. If he was already on the PUP list when the training camp started, you'd keep him there. He'd be out 4 weeks, wouldn't count against the 53. A roster spot opens up for somebody like a Justin Ross or something like that. That's not the case. Kadarius Toney will have to be a part of the 53-man roster, even if he's placed on the PUP or the PUF list. I don't know. There's plenty of guys that were placed on the PUF list before. NFL doesn't really care about that. Not many placed on the PUF list.
The Josh Gordon PUF. I love the PUF list. I think the PUF list is genius.
Oh, man. How did we not have an NFI, not football injury related, a PUP and a PUF? Man.
That's a great one.
I tell you what. That would have been great if we were able to do that.
We would have thought of that 5 or 6 years ago. We would have had so many good Josh Gordon jokes.
I mean, right? It would have been great. But that's not the case.
No.
And it is not the case that Kadarius Toney will be practicing with the Chiefs. The reactions have been expected of the
Hello,
that it's
darkness, my old friend.
I've come to speak with you again. We kind of got an indication when Travis Kelce yesterday said, hopefully back in, before the season or early in the season that, okay, this is something that the guys know he's going to be out for training camp. Like, I don't think Travis Kelce just throws that out there if he didn't have an idea or an inkling. And obviously, the team had an idea, players had an inkling, and Kadarius Toney got surgery to repair that particular knee. I had said earlier in the show, before we talked to Monty, that this is, feels to me like moving forward is sort of this era's Sammy Watkins.
Yep.
And on Twitter, pointed out, I think it's a good distinction that this era's Sammy Watkins without the cap hit of Sammy Watkins is more digestible and easier to accept than the Sammy Watkins in-game, out-of-game. Well, let me start the game, and actually I can't really play as much as I thought I'd be able to play, so now I'm just going to sit here even though I'm on the active roster today and there's another roster spot that could have gone to somebody else, and I'm not playing while I'm taking up $20 million against the cap. That's vastly different than $1 million for Toney if he's in and out of the lineup and has to deal with injuries. It's not ideal, it's not great, but it's easier to accept that than you just got to deal with Sammy Watkins, and it's money, and you hope he can be healthy and ready to go.
That's the one reason that Kadarius Toney is in a better spot than Sammy Watkins, but there's also one way in which he is in a worse spot than Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins was not this team's number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
That changes
He was the third
ton.
option at best.
He was legitimately the third option. And second wide out, obviously, to Tyreek Hill. Now, for Toney, the narrative this offseason was that he was the Chiefs' choice for wide receiver one. Now, what would the split actually be with him and Sky Moore? We will either find out or we would never know. I'm not sure now because the offseason the preseason has been changed in a major way. But that's the phrase I wrote down earlier in the show was Toney is worth it as a come-and-go wide receiver too, which is going back to the salary cap thing. Part of the reason that Sammy Watkins was frustrating is because of that, because there was inconsistency and you were paying for a number one wide receiver type, but the offense survived without him because they still had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. In this instance, Toney's absence hurts less because of the investment. And a third-round pick is something, but it's not the pulling teeth of the cap hit, right? So everyone, the third round pick was, I think Drake texted me this yesterday from him meandering about trying to do some radio magic. Say, look, I think this is the common take on it that I think is reasonable. Say, hey, look, if Kadarius Toney never plays another snap for the Chiefs, I'm not going to be awake at night going, oh man, that third round draft pick, because he was a real part of a Super Bowl winning team. Through those playoffs, and the punt return felt like ice. I mean, it was just there's no need to begin to even second guess that risk.
Yeah,
also,
agreed.
I think the risk was worth it because you have outrageous physical talent, durability concerns. So I'm not bothered by the trade. I'm not bothered by him being on this team. My sadness and frustration comes from a really genuine place of just, I want to see 17 games of Kadarius Toney. I'd take 12. I might take 10 right now. I probably would. But if Sky Moore's number one receiver and Kadarius Toney is in and out for 8 games, cool, fine. All right, sweet. This offense still has juice. It's still Mahomes and Kelce and then some other receiver, and then Toney's a dynamic weapon whenever he's available. But if he is the crown jewel of your pass-catching options, his lack of availability becomes more heavy by an order of magnitude. So that for me is my little tension. Costs less, carries less than Sammy Watkins did. May have been in line to be asked to do even a little more than Sammy Watkins did in this offense.
The salary cap numbers, Sammy Watkins' last 2 years with the Chiefs was a total of $35 million against the cap. Kadarius Toney's 3 years, so 2.5 years he'll spend with the Chiefs is a total of $5 million. That's including next year. This year, next year,
crazy.
What they paid last year is a total of $5 million against the cap. Sammy Watkins was $35 for those 2 years. So when you've got the issue to me, like the salary cap makes it more acceptable.
Yep.
But Sammy Watkins being injured, again, you had Kelce and Tyreek Hill. And then in 2020, well, I guess both 19 and 20, you also had McCole Hardman.
Right.
So you had him that was like, okay, he can be sort of a gadget player, but Sammy Watkins offered value to this team, obviously. This with Tony is the Chiefs feel like he's their most dynamic weapon, which was Tyreek Hill. He's not Tyreek Hill, but the most dynamic weapon the Chiefs had was not Sammy Watkins or Travis Kelce. It was Tyreek Hill. Two of the best weapons in the NFL, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill.
Fair.
Kadarius Toney is supposed to be someone that can be a difference maker for this team. And without Kadarius Toney, they don't have that skill set on this team. Richie James offers a little bit. It's a diet version.
Yes.
Sky Moore is not that. Rashee Rice is definitely not that. MVS is not that. Justin Watson is not that. Justin Ross is not that. They aren't those guys that are the Tyreek Hill, Kadarius Toney, explosive type players. I don't think the Chiefs, in any way, shape, or form, can go into this season and think, well, if he's back for week 1, we'll get 17 games of Kadarius Toney.
No.
Now it is about figuring out how many games you can have him for and if he's healthy in January.
Yep.
That's really it. Because he got to the Chiefs, and when he got to the Chiefs, there were 10 games. There have been 10 games, including the postseason, that the Chiefs have played from the second they acquired him. He has missed 3 and left 3 of them early.
Oh.
So that means he started and finished 4 games of the 10. He left the Chargers game early, the Texans game early, and the Bengals game early.
Did he play in that first game after they traded for him?
He did against Tennessee.
Okay.
Yep. He played, had 9 snaps in that game. But he played.
Sure.
Played 9 snaps, was out there, 2 targets. Chargers game, left early after 14 snaps, and then missed the next 3 weeks. And then Houston left early but returned against Seattle. And then we know Cincinnati left early and then returned against the Eagles. So it's 4 games. And if he misses the Lions, it'd be 11 total games. And he would have been there for 4 of 11 that he started and finished, and he would have missed 4 of the 11 games. So, to me, this is sort of what is the expectation for Kadarius Toney, and anything above that is sort of icing on the cake. You rely on MVS, Sky Moore, and Rashee Rice to be your baseline. Kadarius Toney can take you over the top, literally and figuratively, but he can take that wide receiver group to another level, or he's not there, and it can be somewhat generic, but it also means Sky Moore and Rashee Rice have to have bigger seasons. Sky Moore, it's imperative for him to step up and play better than he did a year ago. And Rashee Rice might have more pressure on him to step up and have a bigger role earlier in his career than typically Chiefs rookie wide receivers have.
Maybe there's some world in which that's a good thing. Like maybe there's some little bit of like, hey, we know there'll be some growing pains. At some point, Patrick Mahomes will throw a pick targeting Rashee Rice, and we're all going to just go, not on 15. And we'll all just know that. Maybe that'll be part of it. But, man, it just feels like such a freaking gut punch to go from like, oh, man, all right, so Kadarius Toney, if the Chiefs training staff gets him right, you know, if he really was mismanaged in New York, and if he really does get his feet set here in Kansas City, a full training camp, I mean, he really can do some Tyreek Hill things. Didn't get to the start of the first actual, like, full team practice. And so now, so you move the goalposts now, because you have to. You have to say, all right, be a role player, be a ceiling mover. But if their floor is being set by Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who we have a pretty good idea of what he is, and we've talked plenty about the limitations that come with that, second-year Sky Moore, who it's imperative, you're right, but we have not seen him be even like a NFL possession receiver to this point. Mm-hmm. It might be there. I'm optimistic, but we haven't seen it yet. And Rashee Rice, who has practiced for 2 or 3 more NFL practices than Kadarius Toney has this year. I mean, that's what I guess, you know, Rice got there early for the rookie to report with the rookies, obviously. So that's nice. But man, it's a ton of unknowns, which feels like a big year for Travis Kelce loading. All right, he's 45 years old now. I mean, it's just it's a real blow to what the pass catching group looks like.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Todd Lebo will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. Fact or Fiction. John Sherman wrote a letter.
Yeah.
We'll do that next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm McCall from Lee Summit Subaru, and we're committed to helping our community.
All right, we'll talk with Todd Lebo. We talked with Jeff Montgomery earlier this hour. Earlier today, John Sherman released a letter to the Kansas City Royals fans. And it says here, to our dedicated Royals fans and the Kansas City community, last Monday night, I pulled into the K for our game against the Detroit Tigers. As I watched fans excitedly picking up their Bo Jackson bobbleheads, a man came over to me in the parking lot. I'd like to introduce you to someone, he said. This is Nancy Hauser, Dick's widow. Many of you remember our Royals manager, Dick Hauser, who died at age 51, just 1 year after leading the team to their first World Series championship in 1985. Some 38 years later, I had the unexpected privilege of greeting his wife, who has remained in Kansas City almost 4 decades later as she returned to the K for a game. I was struck by the moment. My very first World Series game was the historic Game 6 in 1985, managed by her husband, Dick. Standing there in the parking lot, the history, the legacy, and the passion that connects generations of those of us who love the Royals all seemed to collide. You know, Josh, I appreciated when you talked about Renee watching Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
That the music sort of let you know what the feeling was.
Absolutely.
I feel like because this is supposed to get people ready to go, I want to hear some inspiring music as we play this.
Ooh, this letter presented by Netflix.
It's that same passion that also makes us eager to know what lies ahead and to know what the future holds for this storied franchise. I know we're not at all where we want to be on the field. I'm here every night, and I feel that pain alongside our team, our fans, and our community. And I get that it isn't going to feel better until it gets better. But rest assured that we're intensely committed to restoring the Royals to their rightful place in Major League Baseball. And we will do what's necessary to see that through. We're just getting started. We're a region with generational moments ahead of us, a region that's actively building its future. The Royals are gratified to share that journey with our partners of 55 years, the Chiefs. Both of our great franchises continually work to lift up our region and its growth. We have a new KCI airport, expanding streetcar line, hosted the NFL draft, all while the World Cup preparation and the KC Currents new stadium are both well underway. We want to help drive that momentum. Now, if you were to take that and turn it into, maybe Marcus Mariota out on the field, and you heard some sad music.
How's this next act going to go?
Many of you expressed that you would like to hear more information on our new ballpark district vision. In the next 30 days, we plan to share an overview of the ballpark district, including the broad benefits of the 2 sites under consideration, one in Jackson County and one in Clay. We're putting both sites through an equally rigorous process. We look forward to unveiling detailed renderings and many other components that will help us compare the broad benefits of both sites and create a world-class ballpark that keeps pace with our peers nationwide, brings to Kansas Cityans a dynamic and energized ballpark experience. It's woven into the fabric of our region, anchored by the new ballpark. Construction project alone is expected to generate 20,000 jobs and $1.4 billion in labor income, $2.8 billion in economic output in the 3+ years it will take to build. That's too sad. I need some inspirational music again.
I
don't like
felt
that
a
one.
lot better.
I don't like that. John Sherman is getting people pumped up for this. All right, this project will be a huge economic boost for the region.
Let me give you my money.
It will spur meaningful development around the ballpark in adjacent neighborhoods, both in the short and long term. We anticipate that the inaugural year of the new ballpark is expected to generate some $185 million more in regional economic output than the K does today. The Royals ownership group will commit well in excess of $1 billion in private investment to help create transformational growth here and across the region, dramatically enhance game day experiences, more visitors who will generate more spending throughout our hometown. We are committed to doing this right. This is a huge decision. We're focused on playing the long game for the region we call home. In late September, we plan to announce which site will be best fulfill our pledge to Kansas City to create 1, a powerful community impact, 2, generate sustainable economic activity in the county, city, and state, and 3, greater opportunity for the citizens of our region. Now, a lot of people feel like John Sherman sounds like this when he talks. finally. Please know, we're listening. We hear you. I look forward to the chance to keep talking with you at the K, in the grocery checkout line, at the gas station, around town. These can be dynamic conversations. One thing breaks through. Your passion for the Royals in the city we all love. Please keep coming up and extending your hand. It means a lot. I look forward to staying in touch and working together to achieve something special that changes the face of our region for the better. Very sincerely, John Sherman. So that's the letter. There you go. That's what he wrote to fans. So there it is. It's out there.
Do they do Emmys for radio? How do we...
So you can go read it yourself if you want to.
Can I submit this for a Marconi? I think your
there you go.
final reading was my favorite. That character felt like there was something deep inside.
Well, I mean, he said that, we're listening, we hear you.
Please, keep coming up and extending your
I look forward to the chance to keep talking to you at the K, the grocery line, in your bedroom, the gas station, around the dinner table, in the shower, or around town.
Well, I feel better.
Yeah. It's essentially a lot of words to say, hey, we're going to tell you which site we're choosing in late September.
Hey, there's a website now.
We'll talk to Todd Lebo. He's driving back from St. Joe. It's coming up next. Some Fact or Fiction as well. More Zone next.
When the world stayed home, Tanium stepped up to help the world's largest and most complex...
how's your meniscus?
My meniscus is fine,
Good.
guys. I don't have any issues at all with my meniscus. It's beautiful. Didn't tweak it. Didn't have a procedure. Didn't have a surgery. Didn't have anything.
Good.
Nothing at all.
Good. We appreciate that. Todd, you are heading back from St. Joe on your way back down, and we appreciate you joining us here on Tuesdays when we get our St. Joe report from you.
Well, I love it, guys. I appreciate Green Grass Cattle Co. sponsoring our Chiefs coverage this week. You can check them out at greengrasscattleco.com. They've got training camp meat bundles on there. So check them out, greengrasscattleco.com. Get yourself loaded up with some good beef from Missouri. It'd be great. And I'm happy to be driving in not a hailstorm like I drove through yesterday morning.
That is nice. Yes, all hail was breaking loose when Andy Reid said that hopefully back for Week 1. There's a chance he'd be ready for Week 1. Kadarius Toney is bound and determined to play Week 1. Yesterday is when it kind of got an idea, Todd, of what the timetable would be for Kadarius Toney when Travis Kelce.
You get that from Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Travis will get that to you. That's how it is,
Yeah,
right?
but it's like, okay, that was interesting. Travis Kelce said that. Is that actually the timeline? And then Kadarius Toney was like, the report is, slightly off, but, can't wait to get back. And that was the Adam Schefter report. In that was that he had the surgery to clean up stuff in the offseason. That was the offseason of last year. But
right.
Travis Kelce said that. I thought, okay, that's certainly of note. Is he just saying, I don't know, but hopefully, back in time for the regular season or whatever, just being extra cautious and not knowing what the extent was? But seems that the team, the players, and certainly the coaching staff had an idea of Kadarius Toney going under the knife and out for the rest of training camp.
Yes, maybe Travis didn't know he was having surgery this morning, or if he did, he would have told us clearly. But this whole thing's kind of funny. That's why I followed up in the middle of Andy. Said, just let me get this right. Did he have a surgery in the off season? And he said, no, that was last off season. So now Adam Schefter's report says procedure. So maybe he had a procedure in the off season that's not a surgery. I mean, we're parsing words, and we probably care too much about the minutia of this. But this is the Kansas City Chiefs, and this is what Chiefs fans want to hear. And so we're gonna talk it through. And but I do think it should be a cautionary tale to just freak out about anything good or bad from just something you see or a word you hear or a report you hear, whether it be from a tight end, an insider, a head coach, or the player himself. What we do know is this: this guy hurt his knee the other day when and Andy explained it was just while catching a punt. This was not some big crazy play. He did that, and he's going to be out for a while. But here's what I will say as my opinion as someone who has watched this team and watched Andy Reid's offenses and watched a lot of football from this group over the years. I think Kadarius Toney can be an important part of this team. But I've watched enough football with Kadarius Toney that he is maybe not going to be available every day anyway. And I watched this team with the best wide receiver I ever saw play for the Chiefs with my eyeballs, not be on the team last year, and lead the NFL in offense and win the Super Bowl. So I don't want people going crazy that Kadarius Toney may miss the Lions game, all right? It's okay. Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. Travis Kelce is the tight end. They have a whole bunch of good young wide receivers on this team as well, and Andy Reid is calling the plays. Now, if a whole bunch of other things happen in the next 6 weeks, go ahead and freak out. But right now, if you're freaking out about Kadarius Toney, a guy who caught how many balls last year for this team?
Not many.
A dozen? I don't remember. It wasn't that many. Just you need to calm down.
He had
have faith in what's going on.
16 receptions for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then he had 7 receptions for 50 yards and a touchdown in the playoffs, including 2 catches, 14 yards and a touchdown in the AFC Championship and Super Bowl combined. But a big punt return.
Yeah, he had a big punt return. And Sky Moore had a big punt return in the AFC Championship game.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, Jason, I know you only caught the one ball, at least Summit North, but you could have made that touchdown catch in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I know we joke, and then people
totally
say, could you carry a football for 10 yards on 10 carries in the NFL? No, you couldn't. But you could score that touchdown. That's a different thing than running through the line.
I think
score that touchdown.
After that game was the only time in my life that I could have had 2 catches and 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Like, you know what? I think I could have had 2 touchdown receptions in the Super Bowl right now.
They may have played played you different. I don't know.
Yeah, that nobody needed to guard me. It's like,
they weren't going to pass you off in coverage. Okay, they're sticking with you. It's different.
Let me say there would be no reason to hold me as I tried to change directions, okay? I would be worse than Kadarius Toney. I would fall over in a pile because my knees would completely give out. The only thing that I'll say is, Adam Schefter's report of the cleaning up and then, re-aggravating that injury. If it was something that they tried to clean up this offseason and then he re-aggravated that specific thing, then I would be concerned of, okay, is this something that might be chronic for Kadarius Toney? To where they went in and cleaned it up, and then the first practice he changes directions in a punt and re-aggravates it. It was something from last off season that they went in and had a procedure. Did he re-aggravate that? But it sounded like Andy Reid said he tore some meniscus when he changed directions. I don't know if that was, they repaired some meniscus last off season or something like that. I don't know, or the whole re-aggravating. But that's the only reason I would connect him and think that distinction I would want to know, because the last thing you want is a guy who's 24 years old, has 2 years left in Kansas City, and is as dynamic as he is, to have something become chronic in the knee and just keep jumping up and having an issue and biting him there.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's obviously had some issues because he had a procedure 2 years ago then as a 22-year-old. I mean, some guys will go through their career and not have any procedures, surgeries, anything. Other guys, just the way they're built, man. And maybe he's that guy who's going to have those things happen. I will say this. I don't think Kadarius Toney, from what we've seen from his injury part of his career in the NFL, is going to be someone who's going to get some monstrous mega deal, because he hasn't shown the ability to be healthy these times.
Yeah.
Not that it really matters, because all I care about for the Chiefs is what is Kadarius Toney going to do this year for this team. And I think he's going to be a contributor this year. It may not be on September 7th when they raise the banner. It could be a week later, and that having that game on Thursday instead of Sunday could also be a factor. They're playing a little bit earlier. And hey, listen, the other good news is, by the way, we're still into July, and they don't play a game till September. Okay, there's a long time to go before they play a football game, and maybe he'll be ready by then. But as I said, it's the thing for this team. They need to make sure he's right. They would like to have him be available to play when the games count more, and they'd like him to stay healthy as much as anything, because he has not proven he can do that in his short NFL career so far.
It is 6 weeks from Thursday is when the Chiefs will take the field against the Lions. So 6 weeks and 2 days is how long. So what's it take to recover from this meniscus?
It's like week 4 of the season, and they say, "Oh, he's going to be back in 6 weeks." That seems like a long time when it's during the season, because 5 other games happen.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of feels like, oh, camp's underway. They're going to play a game. Dude, they're not playing a preseason game for a couple weeks here.
Yeah.
We got a long ways to go on this thing.
Preseason game isn't for 3 weeks. I mean, the 13th. So we got a ways, right? Isn't the 13th the first preseason game for the Chiefs?
Yeah, it's a long time away.
It says till July 25th. We're not even in August yet. It ain't the trade deadline yet for the Major League Baseball. All right. So yeah, but the concern would be, Todd Lebo is hanging out with us as he's on his way back from St. Joe. The concern would be, the conversation around the wide receiver room took place all offseason. Do you get Hopkins? Do you get Odell Beckham Jr.? Do you trade for somebody? Do you trade up and draft somebody? I think they were probably trying to. They got Rashee Rice. What does this wide receiver group look like? And it seemed like it was the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That the 1 through 5 or 1 through 6 is going to be the strength of the wide receiver group, not Tyreek Hill and then Demarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle and whoever else, and Marcus Kemp and whoever else is out there. It's going to be a deeper, less higher end talent, more middle and low end of the group talent. And without Kadarius Toney there, it's already sort of putting stress on the holes that were filled on the boat and trying to patch those things up and make it across the ocean.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. You want Rashee Rice to be good, and by all accounts, what I've seen so far, he's fitting in, and he looks like he's going to be a player for this team. So if he's good, all right, there's a guy. We think Sky Moore is going to get better. He looks much more confident, and he made winning plays last year in the postseason for the Chiefs. winning plays.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another guy who can help you out. I fully expect MVS to be much better this year than last. I think that he got better, and he was super dependable as the postseason went along and necessary for this team. I mean, they absolutely needed him to make plays. Take yourself back to that Bengals game and who was on the field catching the ball in the biggest time for this team because of the injuries. Listen, you want everyone healthy. Sure, you want DeAndre Hopkins on the team. You'd take Odell Beckham too. Just put them all out there. Let them play. That's not the way it works.
No.
So you have to play with what you have, and they have put weapons in the offense from the draft. And you're drafting guys in the second round. You think these are good players, right? Rashee Rice, Sky Moore. You're throwing some numbers at this thing. We don't have to talk about how Tyreek Hill was a fifth-round draft pick, right? Kadarius Toney was a first-round draft pick, but Devontae Adams wasn't. I mean, there's wide receivers are throughout the draft. It may turn out to where they'll need a union at some point, like the running backs, because they'll all get devalued because there's too many of them. I don't know. But they will find players to play for this team. I fully expect the Chiefs to do that. And listen, they wanted to probably trade up and do a little bit better, quotes, at wide receiver than Rashee Rice. But Patrick Mahomes kind of handpicked Rashee Rice, right? Had him down before the draft, working out with the guys. I think they've got weapons on this team. And I tell you, I think the tight ends are going to be really good this year. I expect Noah Gray to be a lot better and continue to improve. Maybe Jordy Fortson can stay healthy. Travis Kelce is obviously the best there is in the league, does not show any signs of slowing down. And they're going to use their Pacheco, even, if Clyde's on this team, Jerick McKinnon, they'll find ways. Once again, Patrick Mahomes will probably have to stand up in front of the press at some point this year and go, sorry, fantasy owners, this is not your year.
Yeah.
He did that last year, and he was right. They had a great offense, and there was no one besides probably Travis Kelce who you wanted to have starting every week on your fantasy.
Yeah, there was like a 4-week stretch of like Juju became a starter. It was like a high-end number 2 receiver because it was like Mahomes was force-feeding him. And then that Jacksonville game when Juju got concussed, that was sort of the end of that run with Juju.
Right.
Mahomes was throwing to Juju a lot in that 4-week stretch, and that sort of ended it. So, yeah, there wasn't a guy last year that you said outside of Kelce, this guy I'm going to start every single week, and he's going to be a main guy. The issue with Kadarius Toney, last one, and I want to talk to you about Chris Jones. He's been available or the Chiefs have played 10 games since they traded for him, and including the postseason. And in those 10 games, he's missed 3 and he's left 3 early. So he started and finished 4 games of the 10 that he's been on the Chiefs team. That's just something that I think you're just going to have to live with him. You go into the season, and that's what it is.
Go back and look at him through the Giants as well. This is not someone who was, an Iron Man throughout the entire, which is fine. That's fine. And if you can give you what you need in the times that you have available for that player when you need him, that's fine. It'd be great. Tyreek Hill's just not running around out there for the Chiefs right now, okay? And he missed a couple of games here and there, but he's pretty durable for a guy his size. Pretty durable, and that's probably the rarity more than the rule in the National Football League with guys who are just a little bit undersized to be to be available all the time. It's a tough game, man. It's a tough game. It doesn't look like a tough game at practice because they're in shells and not hit each other. It's a different deal when you put the pads on. You're playing real games, man. I don't know how these guys get themselves ready. If you're that size to play every week, it's tough.
Visiting with Todd Lebo. Chris Jones is not there. We'll see when he gets there, whenever the contract is done. I thought it interesting. Andy Reid was, pretty honest when he said that they were surprised. Yeah, I was a little surprised that he was not there at training camp. What was your reaction to hearing Andy Reid say that he was surprised and I guess, at least from Andy Reid's standpoint, that he thought maybe if the contract wasn't done that Chris Jones was still going to be there?
Yeah, that did stand out to me on Sunday when Andy said that. Now, this is another thing, too. Like, let's parse through some words.
Mm-hmm.
They're far apart. What is far apart?
Yeah.
Everyone's definition of far apart is different. Is it $10 million a year far apart? Is it 2 years on a contract far apart? Or is it some other language in there? I don't know what far apart is because what we have is who says they're far apart. You don't have a name on it, right? We haven't, and I think that's best. I don't think Chris Jones or his agents or the Chiefs or Brett Veach should be tweeting out anything about negotiations. They should just get them done, okay? Now, people want to know because this is important stuff. It's Chiefs season, man. Is Kadarius Toney okay? Where's Chris Jones? They want to know that. But as we said, it's the 25th of July. Chris Jones, this is me guessing. This is no inside knowledge. I'm not so sure Chris Jones is super keen on. Did you see the weather forecast this week? You know what I mean? I mean, this guy doesn't maybe need the longest camp in Chiefs history to get ready to do this. You know what I mean? I won't be worried and scared and nervous about Chris Jones. I will not be worried and scared and nervous until they're playing September 7th. If he's not in between the second and third, because they have 10 days off, right, before their game, from their last preseason game until the game. So 2 weeks, 17 days, 2 weeks, something like that, before their first real live game against the Detroit Lions. If he's not there by then, all right, call me nervous, call me scared at that point. But we'll ask and be concerned about it and talk about it every day till then. I'm fine with that. But I'm not going to be freaked out yet, because if history has shown us anything, freaking out for like 2 hours on something that may get fixed in 30 minutes, it doesn't do you any good. But I appreciate the fact that we all like to be freaked out. That's fun.
It's fun.
People like that. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
People like to live and die with it. But don't try to, like when Chris Jones wakes up and puts wakey wakey, or, he used to put, God bless everyone or something. He, put that out a lot.
That's right.
People would try to read a sign to that. Do not read the sign as anything that is tweeted by Chris Jones. Unless it's got a picture of him with a pen in Brett Veach's office. Okay? That's when you can read something into it.
What if he took a picture or just put a pen emoji? Oh, now what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Come on.
Is he tweeting it, or is he replying to someone else's tweet? Is it a quote tweet? Is it on the gram? I don't know. Is it on the gram? Is it on Threads? I don't know. What if he threads this?
What if he X's it? What if it's
is that what we're saying now? Are we saying that now? Or are we?
What if he makes a video? Then it'd be an X video.
Yeah, let's not do that.
I'm just saying.
He already made one of those at the combine.
There it is. There it is. Yep.
He didn't make it. The NFL distributed that.
They what?
They distributed that.
Distributed, okay.
Yeah. Todd Lebo is our guest. Where's my train of thought? I'm not sure.
Gone. Chris
so
Jones. Yes, we want him to get signed with the Chiefs so they would be better with Chris Jones, because I do think he's the second most important person on this team. I'll put him even above Travis Kelce. I mean, I think he is so important for this defense, and I think he's got a boatload of leverage right now, because I think they know that. And the question is, what's he want to do with the leverage?
Yep.
I also think if he tells them I'm sitting out, then you trade him. You don't do that. I think that would be severely detrimental to this football team, and I don't think that would be good for the organization. Maybe it'd end up being good for him if he got somewhere where he could get a big fat deal that he wants or something like that. But then again, I think the best thing for him to do would be get a deal that works for him and works for the Chiefs and play for this team, because this window for this team is going to be wide open for a long time, but it's wide open right now.
Todd Lebo's our guest, and last one on the Chris Jones, and then we'll take a break and get a little fact or fiction in here. But we played the clip from the ring ceremony of Brett Veach, and at the time, it really didn't, mean a whole lot. Sure, let's listen to it, Drake. Let's listen to it again. I don't need to paraphrase, but this is Brett Veach at the ring ceremony talking to a number of people, including our very own Todd Lebo.
We're in constant communication. I'd be shocked if Chris isn't here. I mean, this is his type of party right here. So, but we have great communication, and look, there's a lot of time before camp, so feel good about where we're going to be with Chris, and we'll get to celebrate tonight and have a good time, and then break tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll have great dialogue from now to the start of training camp, and look forward to Chris being here and not just for next year, but for a long time.
Do you have a timeline in your head where you feel comfortable getting stuff done?
No, not really. I mean, listen, we have a long history together, and we have a great relationship with his agent. So, these things usually get worked out right during the first start of camp. So, we anticipate the same, and we'll see how it goes.
It didn't really register at the time because we were thinking, okay, deadlines for action, the training camp, they usually get it done like in July at some point. That was mid-June, so let's just wait and see. But He even said those things typically get done before training camp or during the first part of training camp. This is still the first part of training camp. So his deadline and his timeline was not, oh, my God, they're reporting. What's the deal? Even he, in June 16th, was saying it could go into the first part of training camp.
Yeah, and we're there now. So,
yeah, absolutely.
And I do think they're in communication working. I've never heard anyone say talks are off, this is over, sit down and go back in the effing draft or anything like that. I mean, we're not there, and I don't think we're going to get there. Hopefully it'll all work out. It'll be good. But it's we're in the first part of camp now. Yep. No question about that. First padded practice is on Friday. And but once again, I think Chris Jones could play football at a very high level for the Chiefs without having one padded practice.
I would agree with that. Yes, the Chiefs will have one more practice and some shells tomorrow, and then an off day on Thursday, and then padded practices on Friday.
So
yes,
exciting.
That's right. Todd, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling with Todd Lebo. Play a little fact or fiction that comes up next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Don't give in to that constant joint pain. Take control. Take back your quality of life today with help from QC Kinetics. This is Stephen St. John. QC Kinetics is helping people every day here and across the country with their amazing non-surgical treatments. They use the latest advances in regenerative medicine, taking your own body's healing agents and concentrating them right in the area where you have the agonizing pain. This incredible non-invasive approach helps you take back control of your body, relieving the pain in knees, hips, shoulders, or back. No invasive surgery, no harmful drugs or steroids, and no downtime. Listen, summertime needs to be about having fun and making memories, golfing, hiking, enjoying the outdoors. Take control now and start living pain-free again. Call now for your free consultation with QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. 816-412-6299, located off 435 in State Line and in Gladstone. 816-412-6299. That's 816-412-6299. QC Kinetics.
Hey, Chiefs fans, are you looking for the...
Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Drake hanging out with Todd Lebo. We'll get a little fact or fiction in. Todd, were you the one that was messing up the microphone there at training camp?
No.
Well, your phone sounds amazing.
It's better. I pulled right into the parking lot right when you got back here. It's just you just can't.
I had you on my Life 360.
Snap
I knew
your
exactly
fingers.
where you were.
Oh, you have me on there.
Yeah, that's right.
You're not the only one. Yeah, it was interesting. They had some issues with what we call the mult box. Multiple. Everyone plugs their microphone cables in there, and everyone gets the same feed. Well, apparently it died or something. We're in the middle of Andy, and then so everyone went up with actual microphones, and some of them are heavy, and they tried to attach them all to this little. It's just a mic stand. It's not a podium. It's a mic stand, and it's on uneven ground. And then eventually it got to the point where everything fell off during Patrick.
Yeah.
Or
it was
after Patrick.
No, it was during Patrick
and
because
then,
he caught it.
And then I went up and I really only cared about my phone. And then I picked everyone else's stuff up too. And eventually we just had the.
Did you take
MVP,
McDowell's tape recorder and just chuck it over the hill?
We had the MVP hold his foot on it so it wouldn't fall over. And then they brought a little sandbag thing and put it up there, so it was all good for us. It was interesting times we had.
Look, Patrick, we often ask you to make up for issues that happen around the team and on the field. We would also like you to make up for this. Can you help us out and just cover up this issue on this particular play?
Would you just lend a foot and hold your foot on this? So, because it got just out of balance because it's a mic stand and they have a little tray on there that a couple phones go on. It doesn't fall over. But when you put a bunch of stuff on it,
thought it was
something.
Thought it was interesting that the mic went up to like the midsection of a Minahu. And then McKinnon looked like he was looking up at the microphone at times, like trying to talk. Like,
well, I
it's an 8-inch difference, but I feel like they set it for Andy Reid and Mahomes, and then everybody else figured out.
I don't work for the team, but yesterday when the microphone was like pointed up, and I was like, Spags is first. I just turned it down because I knew it would be better for him to be there.
How about Spags right out of the gate? Morning, afternoon, what is it?
What time do I normally do this? We're like, it's right at noon, Coach.
Yes.
Love it.
You don't know.
It's so
we don't know.
good,
But
man.
yeah, it was interesting. And it was a bad mix today with the Minahu and Jet. It's really different sized people.
Right after another.
They got to have a short guy day and a tall guy day.
You need to move the microphone up for a Minahu and have a stool so that
you got to have
can
like
get up
Jet and Sky.
Yes.
And, pick a D-back, someone. Trent McDuffie.
Yeah,
have them
that's
all there today.
That's right.
And then have a Minahu and Kelsey and,
Chris
Smith.
Jones.
Chris Jones would be great.
Yeah.
Ooh, love
Get him
talking
in.
to
Let's talk to him.
Chris Jones
Talk to him.
talking. If they announce tomorrow that Chris Jones is talking, that'd be news.
That would be news.
That'd be very big news. Well, we can get fact or fiction. Drake isn't in there right now, but you want to just fact or fiction for him?
I'd love to.
He's in a different room, and I see him in.
We'll get him in here. You just start asking the question. I'll tell him.
Smoke pouring out of the room over there.
He's in a technology room.
That's
where
concerning.
It's where all the equipment is and where everything runs in that room.
A room where we literally are supposed to try to keep the door open like 24/7, just to make sure the airflow continues, just so anything doesn't overheat.
That's
right.
right.
That's just an ongoing concern.
Yeah, absolutely. Just leave it open and there's a lot of lights.
I got it all ready. I'm just trying to teach a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
there's a lot going on.
There's a lot of lights blinking and flashing in there and everything.
We like the flashy lights.
Especially when they're green.
Yeah.
A lot of green ones.
I like those green lights.
The amber and the red.
Don't care for the red lights.
Yeah.
Fact or fiction? I'll go first.
Yep. Let's start with Todd.
Green lights, good. That's a fact. Fact or fiction? I'll ask you a completely objective statement, and then you're going to answer it as either fact or fiction. And it will be objectively correct, and the score might be tied at the end. It's hard to say. No one ever really knows.
Nope.
Fact or fiction, Lebo? You want to go first this time?
Sure, I'll go first.
And like Jake goes second, maybe Jason goes third, just to mix it up.
Okay.
Fact or fiction, Lebo? This is the only Royals-based question in today's edition of Fact or Fiction.
I hope it's a fact.
I'll go with fact.
It better be fact.
It's a fact.
It's a fact. Yeah, it's a fact.
Yeah. I thought about trying to take that free space and flip it on you guys, but I don't want to write another Royals question. The pitching,
I knew you didn't have one.
It's fine. So, fact or fiction? We're in training camp season here, fellas. And Drake, you can open this one for us if you'd like to go first this time. Drake, fact or fiction? Everybody in the NFL currently, checking reports, is in the best shape of their life. Fact or fiction, Drake?
Oh, it's absolutely a fact. Except for me.
Everybody in the NFL.
Except for unexpected injuries and things like that. But yeah, best shape. They did a lot of different things this offseason to make up for it. And
Yeah, there's definitely some guys out of shape. I don't care if this is fact. I'm saying it's fiction because there's some guys who come in fat.
It's fiction. We've been talking about Kadarius Toney all day. He is not in the best shape of his life right now. He just had surgery.
So I was trying to throw the caveat unless you have unexpected
there's
injury,
some tubbies coming in, too, who haven't done their work.
Look, man, I haven't gone to camp yet. You haven't asked me to.
I get into shape at camp.
That's the workout time.
It used to be the thing where you went to training camp to get in shape. Now you'd better show up at training camp in shape.
Fact or fiction, Jason? Don't know if you saw some other the smaller NFL moves today, but Jimmy Graham obviously didn't play last season. A well-known tight end. He has signed a one-day contract to retire a member of the New Orleans Saints. Fact or fiction?
Trying to think of who else it would be.
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah. I'm going to say fiction.
Lebo?
He played basketball.
He did play basketball. I know.
You should have tight ends do that.
What
I'll try fact on that. Sure, why not, Jimmy? He was a Seahawk as well and some other things.
I am being told to say fact.
Folks, it's fiction, but not for a reason any of you caught. Yes. Jimmy Graham today signed a one-year contract with the New Orleans Saints. He didn't play last year.
He's joining the play.
He is joining the Saints to play again this year. I read it wrong the first time. I read it as one-day contract. Apparently, he's back.
1 year contract. D. Carr brought him out. Let's go.
Derek Carr and
But maybe
Jimmy
it'd be
Graham.
his very memorable 3 years with Seattle. Or there was some sort of trick to that thing.
They definitely happened.
He played somewhere else, too, didn't he? Was he a Giant maybe for a second?
He was a Packer and a Bear.
A Packer. Oh, those Bears years are even further in my brain buried than the Seahawks years.
Those were the end of times for him.
Well, we'll see if we can pick it back up here again then, Lebo. With Kadarius Toney's first injury landing before the first practice of training camp actually started, and with the benefit of hindsight, the Chiefs should have outbid the Ravens or Titans for OBJ or Hopkins.
I don't care what the true answer is of this. Fiction. I didn't want him on this team.
Fiction, because how could they?
Yeah, it is fiction.
It's fiction.
Partially because of the money that they don't currently have, partially because those deals were really expensive.
Yeah.
But I had to think about it.
Okay.
Fact or fiction, Drake. Somebody playing this edition of Fact or Fiction has a gold tooth.
Are you part of it?
He has to be.
Oh, yeah, I'm in here, yeah.
Fact.
Lebo, you got a gold tooth?
It's not his turn yet, so.
I'm going to say fact.
That's a fact.
Now, Lebo, why is it a fact?
Because I have a gold tooth.
I said fact because you waited for it to be Lebo as the last one.
Of course. I learned this a week or so ago. Look at this. Look at Lebo's
Look at you.
little chopper back there.
That's not just some front. That's a whole ass tooth.
That's a whole ass tooth.
My dad's got a couple, yeah.
That's what they used to do with dentistry back in the day.
Heck yeah.
Where the price of gold got too much.
I like the idea of a little gold tooth. If you could just next maybe do one of your front ones, I think it could really
it may change the look.
elevate your look a little bit. I just wanted to share that fact with everybody.
Nice.
Fact or fiction, Jason. The Boston Celtics will win a title with Jaylen Brown on his brand new shiny 5-year Supermax extension worth up to $304 million, the richest deal in NBA history. He signed that today.
Sorry, Beards, but that's fiction.
Yeah, I don't think they're winning anything.
Fiction.
Eat it, Beards. That's fiction.
It's fiction.
I had to deal with a lot of bleep the last few years, and today I watched the Celtics give $300 million to a man with only one arm, effectively, and just dribbling at least.
Yeah, they didn't actually give it to the one-arm man.
No, he has, but he just can't use his left one to dribble.
It wasn't Jaylen Brown. It was the one-arm man.
I was exaggerating. Fact or fiction? Maybe an exaggeration here. Maybe
I didn't
not.
kill my wife. It wasn't Tatum. It was the one-arm man. That was very good, though, by the way. That was a good one.
I legitimately think that Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer and Ryan Gosling in Barbie may be the two best supporting actor performances I have seen this year. Fact or fiction?
Well, you've been loving on these. It's not my turn, though, is it?
I believe it is your turn.
I think it is your turn, actually.
Fact.
I'll go with fact,
You may
too.
just say one of them is the lead.
You got
though.
weird tastes, but yes.
I'll go fact.
It's a fact.
No, that's a fact. I saw it on PBS.
Several great supporting acting performances in Asteroid City also. But Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer and Ryan Gosling, if those two movies could just be total Oscar bait from here on out, I would be tickled by that just because the aesthetics are so funny.
That would be something.
It would really be something, wouldn't it? Fact or fiction, Drake? Chris Jones will have a contract extension with the Chiefs done by the next time we play Fact or Fiction, currently scheduled for August 1st.
Fiction.
I'm going to say fiction.
Yeah, I'm not super confident right now, so I mean it could be a chance to get a point, but I don't think Josh is very
You're
confident.
tied for the
either,
lead, so you
fiction.
don't really have to steal a point here.
I'm going to say it's a fact.
Okay,
Oh,
wow.
man.
It's a fact, Jack. That's a fact, Jack.
Right.
Sometime fact or fiction's kind of a 51-49, and this is a 51-49 for me. But and partially I think because August 1st is my at least warm up into being worried territory. I'm going to be a little worried on August 1st if it's not done.
Okay.
It'll be progressively worse after that, but we'll all witness that together. Fact or fiction: Justin Ross started running with the ones. Kadarius Toney is hurt. So fact or fiction: the Justin Ross hype is actually kind of real.
I'm going to say fiction.
Let's fact that. Let's go. Hype it up.
I'll go fact on it.
Go fact yourself, Jason.
That's a fact.
Justin Ross hype is kind of a little real. Him running with the ones early in camp, I don't think is nothing. It's more real than it's been to any other point so far.
I don't know. Patrick Mahomes today named a number of receivers and even went to Justin Watson. Did not say Justin Ross.
Maybe he just forgot his name.
Just saying.
Maybe, you know what?
You know who wasn't just saying? Patrick Mahomes wasn't just saying.
Do you think he just forgot that Tyreek Hill wasn't on the team anymore and he just was thinking that would be Justin Ross?
I don't know. He had a lot of different names that he said, not Justin Ross. Anyway, go ahead.
Fact or fiction, fellas. Clark Hunt, the chair of the NFL's finance committee, was telling the truth when he said, quote, "I'm not involved in all that," regarding Chris Jones's pending contract negotiations. Fact or fiction, Lebo?
The negotiations, I think these, I'll say fact. Stupidly.
I think involved is some gray areas here, whether or not they're, he's in the discussions or they're coming to him every day. But I think he's probably given them a number. But I'll say fiction.
Read it again.
Clark Hunt, the chair of the NFL's finance committee, was telling the truth when he said, quote, "I'm not involved in that," regarding Chris Jones's pending contract negotiation.
I don't think he's involved in the negotiations. So I'm going to say fact. And if the technicality is, well, he's kept abreast of how much it's going to be because he's got to write the check, then that's BS because you said involved. I don't think he's involved in the negotiations. I'm going to say fact.
It's fact. It's fact is the right answer.
Yeah.
This is the fattest fiction of all time.
Oh, come on.
He used the word involved. You don't think that I thought this was a freebie. I thought I was giving you guys a free space. He's the chair of the NFL's finance committee, and he's not involved in the contract negotiation?
He helps set the salary cap. He doesn't worry about how many.
Clark Hunt lied to your face, and you bought it, Lebo.
That wouldn't be the first
You were
time.
sitting there, and you bought it.
I don't think he's involved in the negotiations. I don't think he's just sitting down.
Well, we'll follow up on this later and make this right in a few months.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, next time we get to talk to Clark Hunt.
And it won't matter because we all said the same thing. So.
Yeah, I know Drake got a point.
Drake got a point. That's right. Drake is now tied. Now it will matter because Drake is tied with Todd at 7, and I've got 6.
Better hope you can make a miracle happen these last two here, Jason.
I don't think so.
Fact or fiction, everyone's eventually just going to start calling Twitter X, and we'll forget it was ever a big deal. Fact or fiction?
This is me.
I think it's Drake.
It's fiction.
It's fiction. I'm still going to call it Arrowhead.
Yeah, this is the fictioniest thing. We've got a couple big back fictions on the way out here because those are fictional as heck.
I'll always call it Arrowhead. I don't care.
It's sandstone.com/ Final fact or fiction, and then the tiebreaker that right now at least a couple people here are going to need. Fact or fiction, Jason, it's totally reasonable to expect Rashee Rice to end up with around 700 receiving yards this year.
Fiction.
717 games, and Kadarius Toney's obviously out.
For all of them.
That's not obvious.
What Scott Moore have last year? 230.
He didn't have 700.
That's about 40 yards per game for Rashee Rice, by the way. 41 if he plays all 17.
41.2.
Jason said fiction.
Jason said fiction.
I said fiction.
I'll say. If I say fact, that'll give him a chance to catch me.
That is right, yeah.
Okay, fact. We're playing tiebreaker either way. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
yeah.
maybe.
It might be a 2 or 3 point tiebreaker.
Or Drake could win it solo here, I
No,
guess.
it doesn't matter if Drake wins it solo. We're still playing tiebreaker.
Drake.
I'll go fact.
No, it's fiction, Jason.
We made this one up.
Wow, incredible. Jason ties it up at the buzzer.
8.
It worked perfectly.
I'm keeping my expectations low for rookie receivers until I get proven wrong. I'll be happy to be proven wrong when it is, but we'll keep that under 500 for me now, which means we're all tied up at 8s across the board. What number does Justin Ross wear?
8.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Here's your tiebreaker, fellas.
Okay.
If you could guarantee an all-pro season by any starting member of the Kansas City Chiefs for this season, who would you pick? I'm going to give you the lightest bit of strategy here. Don't say Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be an all-pro anyway, or at least around that level. So we're taking somebody, and I'm not giving you Tershawn Wharton, I guess. I mean, he's coming back from injury, right? Don't go to the depth chart. A starter who you are elevating to all-pro caliber because you get one magic superhero potion to give to one member of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, so they're not what I think is going to happen if I can make someone all-pro.
You are going to use, you have the wand.
I'm turning someone into Patrick Mahomes.
Or of their position
Yes.
group, yeah. If you said, like, Blaine Gabbert, that would be weird.
Okay.
I wouldn't like it very much if you said
You
Blaine
wouldn't need
Gabbert.
2 of those guys.
Yeah, that would be good.
Well, two's better than one.
Yeah, you know.
That's true. If you have 2, you don't have 1. I've heard that.
I'm ready.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and we will actually have a legit tiebreaker coming up next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter.
All right, let's do the tiebreaker here. Josh, ask the question one more time. We all ended up tied at 8.
How did it happen?
This one was an actual legit
Well, I
all
was going to
tied
just
at 8.
do what you did.
Yeah,
I would did that for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Ties are always legit.
Yeah, that's right.
Today's
In this
tiebreaker,
game,
though,
yes.
I'm giving you a magic wand. You're going to cast a spell on one member of the Kansas City Chiefs. You're going to say, hey, you're having an all-pro season in 2023. You're doing this for the sake of the team, to make them the most successful. Who are you guaranteeing to have an all-pro season if you're given that power to send one of these guys to a career year? Lebo?
Well, for me, it's a D end. I don't want it to be Felix because he's a rookie. I think if George Karlaftis could have an all-pro year, I'm talking like 14 sacks and get after the quarterback, cause a couple of fumbles. I want a defensive end, and I'll just pick Karlaftis because he is a Chiefs draft pick and in his second year.
Drake?
I'm also going to stay on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go Nick Bolton.
Ooh,
I like Nick Bolton. I want to
There you
see.
go.
I want to see 2 scoop and scores per game, every game throughout the season.
34 defensive touchdowns.
All right, so we've got it narrowed down to Lebo or Jason. Jason, what's your answer?
I went defensive end as well, only I went with Felix because I have an idea of what I can get from George. If you now tell me that FAU has an all-pro season with Chris Jones in the middle, I went FAU for my choice.
I thought we might have some repeat answers because the 2 answers that I liked the most, you guys didn't ever go to.
Kadarius Toney.
I thought Sky Moore would be the obvious one.
Oh.
Because you just know. But I thought, hey,
Do
you know
need an
what?
all-pro wide receiver to win a Super Bowl?
I don't know. But
And
do
did they
you
last
know
year?
what would really, really help in a spot that I'm really concerned about?
Donovan Smith.
It'd be nice if Donovan Smith was an all-pro this year.
That was the only one I thought of was, okay, defensive end, do I choose Karlaftis, FAU, or Ominahu, or Donovan Smith?
So he's just not worried about the defensive line at all.
No, because I think Chris Jones will be there, and I don't know. No, I mean, it's fine. I just thought it would be Donovan Smith or Sky for most of you guys.
Keandre Coburn.
That'd be fabulous. I'm gonna give it.
Yes.
To George Karlaftis
What?
and Lebo on the technicality. I said to pick a starter, and I think you might be reaching down to the first rotational guy there.
Well, okay, I can see that being,
And that's
I can see that
real
being-
close.
I know, I can see
Real
that being
close.
the issue. I
Real
get it.
close, and I think for some reason, I kind of want Karlaftis to hit that mark this year more. Maybe it feels like a more honest selection because it's not a rookie. I don't know,
Yeah,
but Jason, I'll tell you what, just so you know, you
Yeah.
are so far away from third place in this one. Like it's a narrow gap
So
between
it's
1
like
and 2.
it's like Donald and Jones.
Yes, that's exactly
And then
right.
a huge gap between the third best defensive tackle in the league.
Yeah,
next?
it's like Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, and then like Turk McBride.
Okay,
That's
so
the old Chiefs defensive tackle.
So if we're doing it like this, then Lebo's Aaron Donald and I'm Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, look, you're getting paid. You're getting paid eventually.
A little bit of the how's your father. Thank you, everybody. Yes.
Is that why you held out yesterday? Were you negotiating a $30 million contract for a year?
That's exactly right. Yes. And clearly it got done because I'm here.
You're here.
That's exactly
You're
right.
here, and I'm
hold in.
I'm Daniel, not so wise.
Or it was, you know what? If you don't show up tomorrow, don't bother showing up on Wednesday. Whoa! 3 days off? Hell yeah! 5-day weekend. That's awesome. I'll be here Thursday.
He's holding in.
Lebo, if I'm not here tomorrow, will you pay my $50,000 fine?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm going to go and take tomorrow off.
Couple of bits of news. Jim Harbaugh negotiating a 4-game suspension with the NCAA for lying to the NCAA earlier in the investigation of Level 2 violations in recruiting, which would not have resulted in much. Being dishonest results in a Level 1. Would be a 6-game suspension. He is negotiating it down to 4. That would be 3 group of 5 teams at home and then Rutgers before heading to Nebraska week 5. And Bronny James in stable condition after suffering a cardiac arrest at practice. Yesterday was in the ICU, is now stable for USC. Bronny James is. So the program coming up next.
Proper diagnosis and treatment of erectile dysfunction requires good medical practitioners and the right medical solution for your specific condition, because your health matters. An improper diagnosis can cause problems and not give you the outcome you desire. This is Jeff for Heartland Men's Health, and if you have ED, there's nowhere better than our clinics to find the right therapy to get your sex life back. At Heartland Men's Health, we're nothing like the online pill sellers or pop-up acoustic wave offices that offer a one-size-fits-all approach to treating your condition, because we know those treatments aren't right for many men. Heartland Men's Health is part of a group that has successfully treated tens of thousands of men, and our protocols have success rates with well over 90%. So call us first. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes blood work, a medical consult, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 844-447-6600 or go to heartlandmenshealth.com. Heartland Men's Health, a Promenic restorative health practice.
When the game goes into overtime. But the game